On February 21st, 2023, Stark County ESC was pleased to welcome and host Dedra Stafford for a full day of learning and fun. Dedra is a well-known author and presenter and a former middle school teacher. She has co-authored Teaching Kids to Thrive with Deb Silver and Summarization in Any Subject with Rick Wormley. In this recording, Dedra will cover topics such as growth mindset, imposter syndrome, self-efficacy, and learned helplessness, among others. All of these topics are ones that all teachers can use to help all students. This presentation has been edited to remove distractions, discussions, breaks, and tech issues.
Thank you. Well, good morning. Oh, I do have to say, to start off this morning, I'm amazed. I was the last live performance for you guys, and now I'm the first back. Because when Diane called me, I was like, I remember we did DI. It was lots of fun. They were all so wonderful. And so I took on an extra job that my husband was like, really? I thought we said you were done traveling, like everything on your calendar was what it was for this semester. And I was like, no, I can go back to Ohio. So I'm thrilled to be back today. All right, so high school teachers, look at the people next to you and say, you knew this is how it would go if we came live. They always make you do those touchy-feely movement things. Look, I can already see, their lips are curling. They're like, I don't want to. You don't have a choice. You're stuck here. I promise you, this is an activity you can use with your kids anytime you need a little movement. And I have worked with seniors. I have worked with all different grades, and they buy into this little activity. So look at the person next to you and say, if I'm doing it, you're doing it. Here's the reason why. I believe what Marcia Tate says. She says if your body's numb, your brain is dumb. You got to get the blood flow going before we talk about stuff that I want you to remember. So I need to get the blood flow going. So this is not that Netflix and chill activity where I do the work and you sit back and drink your coffee. No, you gotta move. So what I need is everybody to stand up and find a partner. That's right. One partner, not three. If you are single, need to mingle. You don't have a partner, raise your hand, come to the front. You'll find a partner there. You'll find a partner. Heather needs a partner. You need a partner. He still needs a partner. Hey, all right. Okay, we got one. All right, everybody has a partner. Now, let's go over the rules. Some of you may have lived very privileged lives and never had to play rock, paper, scissors for entertainment. So let's make sure we're all on the same page. 1, 2, third bump, then you show. If you show before the third bump, they're going to beat you every time because they're going to see what yours is. So 1, 2, 3, then show. Rock beats scissors. Scissors cuts. Paper covers. And there is no spot. All right, so those are the rules of rock, paper, scissors. But we're going to take this to the next level. This is called egg, chicken, dragon, invincible. So there are life stages, Natalie, of evolution or growth. So we're going to start as an egg. Everybody be an egg. The high school teachers are like, I'm not loving this. It gets better. Just hold on. All right, so your first stage of life is the egg. When you rock, paper, scissors, you and your partner are both eggs. The winner becomes the next stage in life, which is chicken. What's a chicken look like? Look at your partner, make sure they know this. Yeah. All right. Here's a rule. Life stages can only play life stages. So in other words, eggs can only lay eggs, chickens can only lay chickens. That's why you have to tell people what you are so you can find the other eggs or the other chickens to partner up. After chicken comes dragon. So dragon, everybody be a dragon. All right? From dragon comes invincible, Superman pose. You know, chin up, hands on your waist, feet spread apart. That's the Superman. So those are the 4 stages. By the way, if you are 2 eggs playing each other and one loses, we are not becoming amoebas. There are no lower stages than an egg. You stay an egg. Once you become invincible, you now have superpowers. You can play any other life stage. So really, when I said you can only play an egg if you're an egg, you can play an egg and invincible. And if I'm an egg playing invincible, or I'm a chicken playing invincible, or I'm a dragon playing invincible, and I beat them, I immediately become invincible. By the way, if you're invincible and you lose, nothing happens. You're invincible. You get to stay invincible. All right, let's see how many people we can get to be invincible in 2 minutes. Or let's do 1 minute. Go. You gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta go to your partner. Keep moving. Stop! Stop! All right, let me see. Where are my eggs? Loud and proud. Give them a round of applause. Where are my chickens? Let me see the chickens. Woo! All right, where are my dragons? Okay. And let me hear it if you became invincible. So, if I were to play this with my classroom, what I'm hoping they will start to figure out, as some of you did, is when you are invincible, it is your goal to help others. There's no sense in an invincible playing an invincible and nothing happens. Nobody loses, nobody wins. Your job as an invincible person or a person who at the top is to help the others below you rise to the same level. So you watch to see how long it takes your kids to make that connection, because you'll see them, invincibles will play invincibles, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, wait a minute, that's not helpful. This is helpful. And then that actually feeds into the culture of your classroom. Everybody have a seat. Okay, not so bad, right? How many of you could use that as a tool in your classroom tomorrow? So that's my goal today, is to give you lots of tools that you can use in your classroom the very next day. That's my goal. Because I've sat in your seat many a time And theory and research is great, but I want stuff to use in my classroom. And I don't want to have to buy a teacher packet. So everybody grab another piece of paper. I want you to write tools I can use, challenge. Dun, dun, dun. Tools I can use, challenge. As I talk today, you're going to get tired of hearing my voice. I will say, after doing this a lot of years, a lot of people leave comments saying, she was good. Her voice didn't bother me. I was like, who would become a presenter if my voice bothered me? I have people who sit through multiple sessions because they're like, your voice doesn't bother me. I don't know that that's a compliment, but I'll take it. So this toolbox challenge, you're going to number any idea that I give you, any tool or strategy that I use that you can use in your classroom. You're going to number it and write it down. The challenge at the end of the day is to see who gets the most. Who gets the most? And then you're going to show it to Diane, and she's going to report it back to me along with your email. And I'm going to give you a prize. The gift of learning. No, there'll probably be a real candy bar involved. So, did I give you one already? Write that down, number one. Boom. Shakalaka. All right. A little more movement before I start talking at you. We're going to play a little game I like to call Fold the Line, because I know throughout the day, sitting in these seats, even though they have padding, which is more comfortable than a lot of times you go to PD, it can get really old really fast, especially when you're used to being large and in charge up here, right? You're used to teaching. It's hard to be the listener. Remember what your kids feel like. Today is a practice of that. We're going to do a game called Fold the Line. Let me say the first and the main rule of Fold the Line is no talking. Middle school teachers, let me repeat this because you're like the children that you work with. No talking. We are going to form a line. This line is going to start right here. And, well, it's actually going to start at the front door. And it's going to end at this back door that says exit. And we're going to make it an L line, so it goes by the food, by the drinks, and right through here. So you guys tuck your chairs into it. It's going to be a single file line. And you're going to line up in order of years of experience in education. Now, if I have 5 years and somebody else has 5 years, don't rock, paper, scissors. It doesn't matter. Somebody's in front, somebody's in back. It's a single file line. And again, no talking. Begin. So fold the line. Great way for me to get you to partner and talk to people other than your table without saying, okay, everyone, pick up your stuff and move for the day, which is then when the other than high school teachers grumbling when I say, let's do something fun. Then when I say, everybody, you don't get to sit with your friends, then they're like, so this way, you'll be able to share with ideas outside of your school, hopefully, and move around, which is always good when you're sitting all day, but not lose your home base. That makes you super happy. Now, could you use this as an activity in your classroom? Yes, but you would never have kids line up on the amount of years they've spent in third grade. That would not be a problem. But I could have them line up on birth months. How many people are in their family? How many animals they have? Their favorite colors in an order of a rainbow. I can have this done in a variety of ways. All my goal is to get them in a single file line that they didn't see coming. And then before they know it, they fold it, because they're going to go stand next to their friends no matter what. And then I fold the line, which means their friends are not their partners. I was middle school, gotta be crafty. So you could steal this. All right, this is one of my favorite John Hattie quotes. In order to grow cognitively and academically, students need an invitational learning environment. Well, that sounds good. invitational learning environment. So what does that mean? Well, students should be able to feel seen, known, appreciated, challenged, and supported. These 5 things. There's a sticky note on your table, everybody grab one. Oh, you know what? Who has the thing of sticky notes in their hand? Raise your hand at your table if you have the whole sticky notes. Raise your hand high. Okay, you are the table boss. So anytime I have directions, it kind of works out. When I say grab the sticky notes, the bossiest person usually grabs the sticky notes. So it does work. Make sure everyone has a sticky note. And I would like you to write down an S. And then underneath that, K. Underneath that, A. Underneath that, C. And underneath that, S. And let's think specifically about our gifted students. What do I do to make sure gifted students feel seen in my classroom? Jot yourself a little note to yourself. This is what I do. What do I do to help gifted students feel seen? What do I do to help gifted students feel known? A brave person. Tell me, stand up, loud and proud, share with the group what you do to help gifted students feel seen. Don't all volunteer at once, that would be awkward. Thank you.
When my kids walk in my room, I acknowledge each of them.
Each student, so you, as they walk through, and what do you teach? I can't see the name.
I have 5 through 7 gifted.
Okay, so she greets each student. That's how she helps them feel seen. Somebody tell me something else that you do to help gifted students feel seen in your classroom. Anyone? No one? Yes.
Give them eye contact and talk to them.
Oh, giving eye contact when you talk to them. Anyone else? Yes.
Once I have their bats level and the reading level, I always assign high level reading level. And they're called my shooting stars. So they go on the board and on the wall. And all the other kids just want to be them. So they see what they're going to do. They get to do the stickers on the chart. Then all the kids by the end of the year are on that chart. So they can see that they know they're a little different sometimes. And they see that and other kids want to be them.
Okay. Okay. So thinking about that, helping gifted students feel seen, do you in some way acknowledge that you get that their level might be different in some areas of your classroom? Known. Anybody got any examples for known? No? Yes, ma'am.
I give my gifted students the opportunity to guest teach in my other classes.
Oh, they guest teach. Okay. Who else? Yes.
I have some of my gifted students tutor others during study hall periods.
Okay.
I do an activity at the beginning of the year with my fifth graders called Me and We. So they have a cutout of the word me and they write down things that are unique to them. And then they get partnered with somebody, they flip the me over and it becomes we, and they have to find the things that they have.
The
in common.
commonality.
And if they can't find stuff on there, then they get talking to each other to find something.
I like that. Me and we, you can write that on your toolbox of challenge. When I said that, it's from today, not just my idea. Me and we is a good activity because gifted students need to be recognized as their unique abilities, but it is also so important for them to connect with other students in the classroom as well. And you specifically teach gifted, correct? But oh my goodness, how powerful for all of your kids when gifted are in your classroom for them to find that connection to other students who they may not academically be at the same level with, right? Awesome, good. So seen, known, now let's do appreciated. How do you show appreciation to gifted kids? You know, let's be real. Some of us love the gifted babies. They're so smart, they always have things to share. And then some of us are like, they're so smart, they always have things to share. What do you do to help show your gifted kids they're appreciated in your classroom?
When I ask a question, if I ask a challenging question, I'll say this challenging question, and then I'll let everybody think about it. And then the first person that answers correctly, I'll give like a piece of candy or something. So I call it like my bonus questions.
All right, very nice, very nice. Appreciated with candy is always a love language I appreciate. What else? Yes.
I display their projects out in the hallway.
Okay, showing their work.
Praising their bravery when they answer a question, even if it's wrong.
Absolutely. And that even if it's wrong, very hard for gifted students. If they are ever wrong, you've got to make them feel safe. That is probably one of the biggest lessons you have to teach your gifted students. But being wrong is part of getting to right, and it is okay. Because gifted students can get very shut down or frustrated when they get stuck trying to be right constantly. So I used to say, thank you for saying that. I know there are 2 other people in this room that are thinking the exact same thing. Let's talk about it. And then kids were like, oh, okay. I just helped other kids. So appreciated. Challenged. What do you do with your gifted students to feel challenged? Write it down. Take a minute, think about it. Table boss, lead a discussion at your table about the things that are on the sticky notes at your table. Go. So now let's shift this focus for just a minute. This quote, I always have teachers look at this no matter what we're doing when it comes to thinking about our classrooms, because these 5 areas, let's just be real. We all do one area or 2 areas really well, and there are a couple we struggle at. Helping kids feel seen, known, appreciated, challenged, and supported. I would like you to put a star by 1 or 2 that you're really good at, generally for all kids. And then I want you to highlight, circle, underline 1 that you know you probably need to step your game up a little bit. And write that down as one of your missions when you leave this workshop today, that between now and the end of the school year, you're going to help students feel more appreciated in your classroom, more challenged in your classroom. John Hattie's quote is changing lives. So this is Teaching Kids to Thrive. We're talking about social and emotional learning today, based on the book that I had the privilege of writing with Dr. Debbie Silver. Anyone know Debbie Silver? She's a wonderful presenter, super funny, and probably one of the smartest ladies I know, because I'm no dummy. When I was doing a keynote at, I want to say it might have been an ASCD, no, maybe a nuts and bolts, I don't know. I was doing a keynote somewhere, and the publisher came up and said, I'd like you to write a book. And so I'm no dummy. I found a very smart lady to help me write a book. And I will tell you, it was so nice to hear somebody else's perspective. The cool thing is they challenged us to write a social and emotional book, but they wanted us to have actual practical things that happen in the classroom to support it, not just the theory. Well, that was the thing that made us most excited. So probably we put together more activities than we needed to. And so when we sent it to them, they were like, this is too many. How long did you think this book was going to be, ladies? And so we created a website to support not only the activities in the book, but all the activities they said we couldn't put in the book. So if you didn't buy the book today, you can go to the website, teachingkidstothrive.com. There are resources, there are activities that are not in the book. So you won't get the activities from the book, but you'll get some handouts from the book, and you will get more activities that are not included. So those are all in there. It ranges from activities from kindergarten, pre-K, all the way to 12th grade. Feel free to log on and play with it. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Some of you are here because you needed a day away from children. Some of you needed those points, right? So you were like, I need the points, showing up, getting the points. She gives me something else, bonus. Otherwise, I got my points. And some of you are feeling like, come on, really? I'm teaching biology in high school to AP kids. I don't have time for touchy-feely social and emotional learning. How does this fit into my job? Isn't this what parents are supposed to be doing? Come on. You know you were feeling that way. Some of you feel that way. How many of you have been guilty, just like I have been at one point, of saying, if their parents would teach them this stuff, it would make it a lot easier for me, right? But the reality is, I think back to my college professor who taught government, and he said he had been tasked by the Regents of Higher Education to teach us a perspective outside of ourselves. And he said, I pretty much figured my whole goal is to help you be a better person. And he said, it's kind of selfish. The better I make you, the easier it'll be for me to retire and sit on the bank and drink beer and fish. Because you'll run the world. If I do a crappy job of helping you be a better person, I'm not going to be able to sit on the bank and drink beer and fish, because you'll be screwing the world up. And that's what I think each of our jobs are. Yes, you have a title on that little tent that we made today that stressed some of you out because you made hot dog trifolds instead of the rest of your table who made burrito trifolds. Right? But your job is not just what that thing says. Yes, those are the standards you follow. But I think every single one of us is building a productive citizen in the world. And so every seed we plant, everything we do, needs to help kids be, I got a new clicker, I gotta find the buttons, who they need to be successful. So I love this. This is Dr. Bernstein's little sketch art on what students need to be a today's learner. I love these aspects. But from here, I want you to notice that there are lots of social and emotional skills on there. And you guys have all had the keynote or the presentation about today's learner, 21st century learner, and how the interviews of today are looking for people who have skills that are not in our standards. They're like, we can teach the stuff on how to do the job, but I don't have time to teach you how to be a good ethical human. I don't have the time to teach you how to work with others. I don't have the time to teach you how to be empathetic to your coworkers. I don't have the time to teach you growth mindset. But I can teach you the job. So our job just got harder. Because yes, parents do sometimes teach these skills. And so we are all now in the position of a kindergarten teacher. Kindergarten teachers get all their kids, and they have the biggest discrepancies in skills, more than any but other grade, because some parents teach their children colors and numbers and shapes and letters way before they come to school. They let them hold pencils and crayons, and they have them sit and focus. And other parents say, SpongeBob SquarePants, watch it, be still. So they have all these kids like this. When it comes to social and emotional, we all have kids like this. And that's what I would like you to think about is, though they're all varied, everything we do is so important. I will also tell you that we can't teacher this up. You know, we can't make a scope and an outline and say, okay, well, in kindergarten, we're going to teach empathy. And then after that, nobody's going to have to focus on empathy anymore because they're going to learn it in kindergarten. And then we're going to teach self-regulation in first grade. They're going to learn self-regulation. How many of you have a high school child who needs self-regulation help? Well, you can't send them back to first grade. These skills are on all of our buckets. They should be on all of our blueprints. They should be all of our standards. We should all be making sure that we talk about, teach, and plant seeds of social and emotional to help our kids grow. So we're gonna try, I'm gonna take a new feature out to spin. I've never done this before, but I use Canva. How many of you are familiar with Canva? Okay, so there's a Canva Live. How many of you are familiar with Canva Live? Oh, look at her. Okay, Steph, I'm gonna take it out for a roll. Does it work well? Yes. Okay, so on your cell phone, go to canva.live, one of you. It's gonna ask for a code. Yeah, CANVA, sorry. I just think everybody should know about Canva. CANVA .live. Oh, look, yep, we're in, hi. Okay, so put your name where it says name or your group's name, and you're not gonna fill it out yet. I want you to talk about it, but after you're through talking, come up with a power sentence that you're gonna put in for the rest of the group to see. So, the thing I want you to discuss is, so far, this has made me think about what when it comes to my gifted kids. So far, what are we thinking about? So don't fill out your thing yet, have a talk, and then come up with a power sentence. 886-862. 886-862. I want you to talk about what we've talked about, and gifted students, this has made me think about what? Have that discussion, then come up with a power sentence to put in here. Look at this one. What do you think? Table tap, you love it. Table tap, you love it. Oh, here's another one. Table tap if you love it. How about that one? Oh, I like that one too. Love it. Oh, this one's nice. Yeah. Look at that one. And here's a good one to end on. I like it. So, if you've never heard of Canva, I just did a technology plug and it wasn't even a technology session. It, by the way, just a sidebar that I don't really have time for before lunch. You can upload your PowerPoints into Canva. They do have to be under 100 megs, which I find super challenging. But what I've learned is cut it in half, cut it in a fourth, add a little at a time. So you don't have to recreate everything in their slides. But this little feature is pretty phenomenal, don't you think? So they can use their technology and they can leave comments. Those of you that it didn't work, it wasn't the main focus, you can raise your hand and contribute. But thumbs up, have you found that some kids are hand raisers and some kids are typers? Like you ask for input and the same 5 to 7 hands go up. But you ask for something like this, a back channel, a Padlet, a flip, what is it, flip grid? Is that what it is? Yeah, flip grid. Like you ask for something technology and you get some super deep quotes from kids. Here's the other thing. I had you talk, which you had some great conversation. But if you have to take both of the talking from the team and then put it together in a thoughtful sentence, that's something gifted kids can really help other kids do, right? So I partner with someone, we talk about their thoughts, my thoughts, and then we sum it all up in a summary sentence to share out to the rest of the group. I call it the cream that came from your discussion. Very nice way to do that. Thank you for letting me test a thing that I hadn't tested. Steph, where you at? Does it limit how many people can jump into a live? Okay, because I had a few people that kept putting the code in and just getting, like it would put it in, they put it in correctly, but then it would turn red and shake, like they were wrong. Okay, I saw 32 people in here, but then we had less and she still couldn't get it to go. So my theory is the old tech thing is close out and start over. I'll have to do more research. But so we had 32 in, no problem. We just had a couple of people that struggled. Okay, so as we go through the book, how everyone, does everyone have one copy of the book at the table at least? Okay. You guys have one? No. Hands up if you don't have one. It's okay. It's okay. It's not life ending. I just wanted you to flip through and kind of see, look at the table of contents, the chapters that are in there, the social and emotional learning. So, self-efficacy. What the heck is that? Why does it matter? Well, it's basically this idea that you believe in your capability to achieve a goal. You have this strong sense that you can challenge yourself and that you can be in a difficult situation and you can solve problems. Right? So I love this little graphic about self-efficacy. I see it like this little, I don't know what these bridges are called. What are they called? A rope bridge. I call it a scary thing. I'm afraid of heights, so I hate the wobbly bridges. But this is kind of how it is for kids who lack self-efficacy. They are scared to take the first step. Why? Because they don't know if their choice is right or wrong. They don't believe in their own ability, their own opinions, their own ideas. So they are afraid to take that first step on the wobbly bridge. They need a lot of teacher hand-holding, if you will. So teacher-assisted, teacher-centered, take the first step. Believe it, it's okay, we can be wrong, here we go. The further you get into self-efficacy, the better you are at your own belief in your own ability, you end up with perseverance. So you want kids to have perseverance? You better start with self-efficacy. They've got to be able to believe in their choices and their ability, even if they're struggling to make it through. How many of you have a kid who says, is this the right answer? Is this the right answer? Right? Those students lack a little self-efficacy. Now let's think about your gifted kids. Are some of them in some areas lacking some self-efficacy? And oftentimes that's displayed as won'ts. I can't, so I won't. It's much, much cooler to say I won't do something than I'm not sure if I know how to do this. And everybody assumes the leader of this group will be this gifted and talented child. You're in charge. Show them how. And they're thinking, crap, this is not my area. And I don't like to talk to people. So sometimes we make assumptions about gifted kids that put them in a low self-efficacy place. If you are not confident in your ability and your ideas and your choices, you need teachers or people beside you to kind of help you take those first steps. The more steps you take, the more confident you feel. And you get further and further onto the wobbly bridge. And now think about on the wobbly bridge, I don't know, rope bridge apparently is a technical name. When you get close to the end, you feel more confident, don't you? You're like, oh yeah. So at first you're like, oh. And then by the end, you're like, okay, I'm moving along. That's self-efficacy in my opinion. So sometimes teachers do have to be very teacher-centered as kids build these skills. Tabletop. What does this make you think about in your classroom? Go. Table box. What's the cream thing that came out of your discussion? What rose to the top? A thought, a question, a concern. So table box, you have 1 minute, actually 30 seconds. What is the thing, if I call on your table, that you are going to make your speaker, see, you're the boss, you get to appoint the speaker, say, so appoint your speaker and say, this is the cream we're probably going to say if she calls on us. Go. A question, a thought. Yeah, I have teacher ears, sorry. She said one word. I was like, nope. A question, a thought, a concern that we have after having this discussion about self-efficacy. Go. So table boss, pick a speaker. You're the speaker, get ready if she calls on us. And then you guys decide what you're talking about.
Get to a point where you're able to deal with
All right. Anyone want to volunteer to talk about the cream on your table? Cream over here. All right, who's the speaker? Oh, look, the same person that volunteered is the speaker. Usually what happens, somebody's like, we'll go first, go. All right, what's the cream?
How do we help them with perfectionism when we struggle with it ourselves?
Table down, that was something you guys discussed. So perfectionism. Can perfectionism keep a student from stepping out of that self-efficacy bridge? Absolutely. Gifted students absolutely struggle with perfectionism. So thinking about that, I'm going to just change course for a minute and go to that slide.
Dun, 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 dun. Should have been more prepared for that. Oh, this means I have to have good eyes. You know,
While you're looking.
absolutely.
And we said perfectionism isn't all grade level. It's not kindergarten, it's not cultivated, it's everywhere. And will they grow out of it? No. But they have to learn, they can learn how to deal with it. Because they don't just automatically get better. Don't think that's not one of those things that happen.
Oh, absolutely. So perfectionism, that can look like there's two types of perfectionism.
Because I'm just going to be really honest. You're teachers. Now, not all of us, but some of us thrive and pride on perfectionism. If you're the laminated, color-coded teacher, don't point her out at your table. It's embarrassing. But there are a lot of perfectionistic people that end up in education. So in the regular workforce, it's like this deeming quality, like there aren't that many of them, they're like little unicorns and people like gravitate to them. I have found we kind of have an overflow of you people in the education world, which makes our lives kind of hard. Ever been on a textbook committee? Right? And then some of us, not so much. So there's two types of people in education. There's, the healthy bit of perfectionism, and then there's the laminating, color-coding people. I would have this symbol. These are butt cheeks. For anal retention. But so some of us are overly perfectionistic. So you can recognize that. And look, they're pointing to something. I told them not to do that, Christine. I'm sorry. But the reality is, there is healthy perfectionism and there's unhealthy perfectionism. Here's the question to ask. Pick up, if you have a drink in front of you, pick it up. Hold it in the air. Now, how heavy is it? Okay, so here's the question to ask yourself. If you're to hold that just a minute, keep holding it. It's not that heavy. But the longer you hold it, the heavier it gets. Same with perfectionism. At first, it's not that big of a deal. But when it starts to weigh you down and get super heavy, then you need to evaluate how much laminating is needed to be an effective teacher. There is that on the criteria, right? Same for students. We want to help them see that healthy perfectionism can drive performance. Unhealthy perfectionism can sometimes look like refusal to try, lots of anxiety, procrastination. Anyone else? Procrastination could really be linked to perfectionism. Sometimes we think, well, I'm just lazy, I'm a procrastinist. No, you might be perfectionist who manifested into procrastination. Hyper-focused on imperfections. How many of you have ever seen that kid? Cannot get out of the little rabbit hole of this one little thing, and you're like, sister, this one slide isn't gonna make or break us. Let's move it on. Right? You don't need to find the perfect picture of a Civil War soldier. Now some of you are like, oh crap, that's not kids, that's me. I was making a worksheet and it took me 47 minutes to find the perfect clip art to put on the page. Right? I miss the days of Microsoft when there were only 32 pictures in there. And you pick the one. Now you go to Google and there are hundreds of thousands. And you gotta pick the one that looks right with your font. Yeah, that's perfectionism. So what can we do? Provide challenging, rigorous learning experiences. Support students with realistic goals. One of the things we don't slow down sometimes enough is to help kids make individual goals, but then give feedback on those goals. Is your goal to find the perfect clip art to go on this slide? Or is your goal to finish the project with good, productive, critical thinking answers to the questions that were asked? Helping them drone out and find the big picture. What are we going for? Provide feedback on what? Their effort and their process. We're going to talk specifically about feedback later. It's vital for helping kids learn. We too often, and some of you are my age, I'm an 80s child, so I was raised in the good job era, where everybody said, good job, you're so smart. That helps no one. Good job and you're so smart help no one learn. You've got to give your feedback tied directly to what they're doing the effort they're putting in and the process they're using that's getting them results. It's getting them results. Then they tie to that as their skill, as what got them somewhere. And then they pull on that later when they're frustrated or struggling or feeling like they're not doing what they need to do. Model self-talk. I'm gonna try to get to that today, but some of the kids who are heavy in perfectionism have very low self-talk. What? They get all the stickers and stars. They get all the awards. But if you're heavy in unhealthy perfectionism, your self-talk is bad. Doesn't matter what your stars and stickers say. Doesn't matter that you go to the gifted class. Up here, you're hearing, you could do better, you could be smarter, you could try harder. And model that growth mindset, All right, so my brave table that stepped out, you get to throw a new table under the bus. Which table would you like to throw? Yeah. Okay. Speaker.
That's me. We had a really interesting discussion about we have a representative from each building in our district. So we have elementary, middle school, high school. And we talked about, as you look at that continuum, our question was, as an elementary teacher, you have your 26, 27 kids most of the day. And you really get to know them. You get to know their parents. You get to influence them throughout the day and build them up throughout the day. Whereas at high school, you have a new group coming in every 42 minutes. And our discussion was, does that influence and impact how much we can do with our kids? And how do we do it differently at different grade levels so that we have the impact that we need to?
So absolutely, when you're working with self-efficacy, you've got to be age appropriate. So the age appropriate self-efficacy act is completely different for pre-K than it is in middle or high school. I do understand the race. I ran a 47-minute hour sometimes. And it was like Pablo's dog, like dance when the bell rang, dance when the bell rang. Like that was my job. But if we don't slow down and talk to students and hear and connect, you're just teaching. For students to learn, there has to be an interaction. There's lots of research that says if you don't cue into small groups and have discussions, about 35 to 40% of your kids are not learning in your classroom. So you may give the best history lecture up on that podium, but if you aren't hearing what they're thinking when you give it, is the learning occurring? So that's where you have to find those ways to talk about self-efficacy, talk about perfectionism. I like to weave it into little places. So if I'm doing a big project, we're going to talk about goal setting. We're going to talk about how we take the first step. We're going to ask people to give a self-reflection. How well do you think you can start? Exit ticket on a scale of 1 to 5. You feel like you know what you need to do to get started, or do you feel a little unsure? Then I take those exit tickets, I sort them. 5s, they're ready to take off. 3s, I might partner them together to bounce ideas off of each other. Student talk before they get started. 1s are going to come sit at a table with me for the first 10 minutes of the hour before we start on that project. That's how I would handle it in a high school or middle school setting. That helps me build self-efficacy. Because I'm teacher-centered for the kids who are afraid to take the first step, but then I also validate in that group. Well, Jen, that is a great way to get this idea expressed. Anybody else agree with that, disagree with that? What other ideas do we have? And a lot of kids are like, I don't know, I don't care, right? But I've given Jen that little bit of self-efficacy. How can we take Jen's idea and use it? And then I help build everybody else to get there. So that might be the way I do that. I do get that it is so much easier to build social and emotional skills in a self-contained classroom where you have your babies all day. The joy of middle and high school kids is I don't have to be with them all day. But the struggle is I don't get to be with them all day. So how can I leave my impression of what I know to be valuable learning while teaching the standards I'm required to teach by the state in this very short time? That's my challenge. So an elementary teacher challenge is how not to pull her hair out while dealing with that child for 6 hours out of the day. My challenge is different. So it looks different, but we all have challenges. So, okay, that group gets to call it a new group. Bring it on this way.
We call our fearless.
Okay?
Oh, that's you? All right, look, she wants the mic.
Our group really talked about how possibly self-efficacy could be built even through collective efficacy. And we have our math teacher sitting here, our middle school math teacher, and they use CPM, which does a lot of group work. And so through that process of building like collective efficacy, are we leading to more self-efficacy?
I love that. That what she just talked about is kind of what I gave in that area, like putting kids together so that because there's that student talk. When I don't know what to think, but hearing somebody else's thoughts help me put my thoughts together, right? And sometimes if we have I have no way of knowing what to step out and do, then I need a little teacher talk. My elementary teachers are really good at teacher talk. Middle and high school teachers, we kind of fall away from it. Thumbs up. I don't know what you're talking about when you say teacher talk. No one? Everybody knows what I mean? Or are some of us a little self-efficacy afraid to put our thumb in the air? Little gifted students in the room. So, teacher talk, what I mean is elementary teachers do a really good job of, when I look at this problem, the first thing I think is, the second thing, I'm going to try this, and if that doesn't work, I might do this. Elementary teachers are so good at that. And what that does is students who don't know how to handle a difficult situation or a struggling project, it gives them, oh, okay, well, so I might do this the first time. So they can either lean on my words where it actually helps them build their own. Middle and high school teachers, we are pushed for time, so we could cut out some of that. But when you see that blank look in kids' faces, what the heck is she talking about? She said teacher talk, I don't know. Or what the heck is he talking about? He said build a timeline for this project. I don't know what the first step is. Tell me, you're the teacher, right? This is where you break it down for them. When you see that blank look, you go, so the first thing I might do is, or the way I might look at this problem differently is. So that helps us get there. I think another good way to help build self-efficacy is to talk about learning. Talk about the brain. Where are my biology teachers in the room? Any? Once. My life science girl. So it's not all on her shoulders. What grade do you teach biology?
10th grade.
10th grade. If we wait to 10th grade to tell kids how brains learn and how brains function, we are missing the boat. And then you can't teach that, and that's what's not even in your standards. So reality is, how the brain learns is a very important skill in understanding learning. That's what teachers need to understand. But I think it's important students, even kindergarten students, need to understand that learning happens in the brain a certain way. How many of you are math teachers in this room? How many of you have had kids who believe they can't do math? How many of you would like to slap their mamas? Right? Because that makes your job 10 times harder. Teaching how the brain learns in a math class will help you undo some of that. So sometimes teaching something off your standards will help teaching your standards better, faster, cleaner the rest of the year. So thinking through, oh, there's my clickers.
what it is. So this whole idea of asking students to reflect on their experiences, learning how to learn, using, what does visualization get you? Helping them see how the things are connected. This idea of teaching them cognitive learning in a little bitty pieces, along with growth mindset, I think are the keys to helping students build self-efficacy. I don't feel confident unless I understand that the brain works and thinks differently. Now, when you say growth mindset, grit, failure, you cannot talk about it without talking about Angela Duckworth and Carol Dweck. I mean, I could have hid this slide and asked somebody at your table to tell you a name that came to mind when it comes to growth mindset, and we've done it, and we've done it to death. So here's my take on this. You ready? And if this is new to you, write these names down. Don't be embarrassed. So Carol Dweck did all the heavy research and the heavy lifting on growth mindset. She is the guru. She has some beautiful intellectual talks on growth mindset. You can find them just about everywhere. Angela Duckworth, young, sparky, TED Talky, did a flashy little TED Talk on the word grit, which uses a bit of growth mindset. She got lots of attention. Along with lots of attention, you get a little pushback. Some people didn't like how she collected her data. And some people got a little insulted, and they said, oh, grit. My kids are gritty. My kids they survive on the rough streets. They're gritty enough. Don't talk to me about grit. But I'd like to challenge you in that in that Carol Dweck mindset, to think that grit really is a fancy little bow word that Angela came up with, but it really means growth mindset, effortful control, and self-efficacy. You're going to be gritty. You kind of have to have all three of these pieces. And I would also like to challenge you. I have presenters, friends of mine, that won't even use the word grit because they didn't like the pushback that I got. I think it's just a bow word that uses three things that I fundamentally believe to be true about helping students be good learners. They have to have all three of these. Boss, run a table discussion. Where do you, in your classrooms, talk about these three things? Not grit, growth mindset, effortful control, or self-efficacy. Go. Carol Dweck, fixed and growth mindset. I have rarely found a person who says, I like fixed mindset. It feels good to be there with my arms folded, not really wanting to buy into anything because, it feels good not to change. Rarely do we feel that way. But I would also like you to challenge you to think that you're not growth mindset in everything you do. That it's different in every aspect of your life. I will tell you that when it comes to research and education and learning, I'm very growth mindset. I love a little criticism. I love an obstacle, a challenge. I'll go deep, find the answer. If somebody challenges me with a problem that I can't give you an answer to, I'm going to go find other people that are smarter than I am, and I'm going to figure out that answer. When it comes to health and wellness, not really a growth mindset person. If I'm running, you should follow. Because I am not a run for fun person. So everyone's different in every aspect. Your children in the classroom, some really excel at a sport or an activity and they thrive on the challenges and the obstacles, but they look at a hard reading passage and they quit. Or someone in their family has told them, we don't do math well, don't come at me with that. And so they've shut down before they've ever started. Everyone has fixed areas. Everyone has growth areas. But my challenge, no matter what I teach, from AP all the way to pre-K, is to help students make the connection between fixed mindset and where it gets you, and growth mindset and where it gets you. So I hope in your discussions, several of you have said, well, I talk about growth mindset, blah, 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 blah. And usually this is what I hear. At the beginning of the year, I start with growth mindset. And I always get this question. Dedra, so I did a teacher pay teacher packet back in August about growth mindset, and they colored the worksheets, and we talked about the thing, and I watched the video. But it is March, and my kids don't give a crap. They are not trying at all. I'm not sure that growth mindset stuff works. Well, it's not one and done. Look at the person next to you and say, growth mindset is not one and done. If it were one and done, I would be about 50 pounds lighter right now, and I would run for fun at the end of this conference. Not happening. But I want to look a little closer about growth mindset and how our gifted students fit into that mentality. So I want you to think specifically about your gifted. A fixed mindset person believes ability is static. A growth mindset person believes ability is developed. So I am just smart. They told me in 3rd grade when they gave me a test, they pulled me out, put me in a special class that I got to leave the others and go do a fun activity. I am smart. How many of you have ever seen a kid who didn't get the gifted label just by a point or two? Parent was freaking out, wanted to know what they needed to do to pass that test. And they were sad because all their friends were getting to go to her classroom. And they didn't. Did they believe the ability was static or developed? If you're fixed mindset and you believe that you're either mathy or you're not, you're either smart or you're not, you want to look smart. I mean, everybody likes to look smart. How do gifted kids fit in that? A growth mindset kid wants to learn. Another one wants to look like they know it already. Well, a fixed mindset person that needs to look smart, you know what you do not need to be? Wrong. You know what you not need to be? Struggling. You know what you not need to be? Not know what to do. If you have to put an effort in this, you must not be smart. How many of you have seen those kids who finish the worksheet before you even finish handing it out? They know all the answers. It's all easy for them. And that's what they start to believe that school should feel like. Now let's flip the side of the coin. Let's think of our special ed kiddos. The ones who look at the directions and go, what? Then they look at your guided practice and go, huh? Write what down? And then you say, get busy, and they're like, I think I'll doodle on the side of this page so she thinks I'm busy because I don't know a clue what we're doing. Those students know that when it comes time to get something done, what do they got to do? A lot of work. They got to go back to the resources. They got to look at these things again. They got to apply it differently. They got to ask for some help. They got to try the first step, check and see if they're right. They're used to putting in effort. Now, I'm not talking about your special ed kiddos that have been spoon-fed and are going, I can't, and they'll just wait for the gifted student to finish and then come tell them the answers, right? Like that's a technique we have, like gifted covered, she helped another one. Special ed technique covered, got help. And it's really a smart kid who finished early and then came over and said, here's the answers, Kelly. Right number 1, this, right number 2, this, right number 3, this. And learning is occurring there, if that's your technique. But the kids who are not knowing they're struggling yet, like they're still trying to do the work all authentically themselves. How many of you remember those kids? Like my youngest, special ed, his elementary teachers would tell me, bless his heart, he knows it's going to take him 3 times for everybody else's 1 time, but he does not give up. That kid knows that with effort, you get better. But I have some gifted kids who believe, if it's a struggle, that must mean I'm not so smart as I look, or everybody thinks I am. How many of you know a kid who stickered and starred themselves all the way through elementary school? Then got to middle school, and they're the kid that went, I know, I got all the awards. At the award assembly, they're the same. I mean, the parents just show up at award assembly day. They don't even have to be notified. They know, my child will get all the awards. High school, they get to a hard AP class. Or even worse, they get to college and hit their first class that they struggle with. The student who has a fixed mindset does what? The first thing they do is call home and go, I can't do this, it's too hard. And then they want to, what? Quit. They want to quit. So by stickering and starring our gifted and talented students, we're pushing them through and letting them help another, but not throwing an extra challenge at them. Or can you look at this and give me another way we could answer this? Or can you write me a difficult test question? Or I have a challenge card, do you think you want to try it? By not putting them in a struggle position, we are doing them a disservice. We are doing them a disservice. Because I guarantee you there's not a person on this earth who has gone completely through their lifetime and never had struggle. My job is to teach you standards. My job is also to teach you what to do in the face of struggle and how to persevere. So I need kids to all understand that effort means you get better. I mean, let's be honest. In our culture, in this country, we focus on successes, not struggle. We often talk about the greatest of all time, the things that people do well, but we rarely look deeper at the story on how they got there. So what could you do in your classroom to help build growth mindset all year? Focus on those stories. Use that as a writing prompt. Use those videos as a table discussion. Talk about what effort and struggle get you in the world. How many of you are learning something new right now? Not me talking. No, like in life. Like you're trying to learn to crochet or something out there. What are you trying to learn to do, Dustin?
Piano.
Piano. Oh, I am very envious. Anyone else? Learning something new? Yes.
Snowboarding.
Snowboarding. So I bet you have encountered some struggle and some effort that you have to put in. And how you have to practice things well to actually, you can't just touch the keys, you've got to do it right, correctly. The correct practice gets you there. Consider talking about that to your students, sharing your journey through struggle and effort to learn something new. Because reality is, they say that you don't have to experience failure and struggle to grow. You just have to feel connected to someone that you can relate to, that's experienced it. And those stories plant seeds in you that you pull from. So you want to help kids build a growth mindset, talk about your own challenges, your own struggles, and where you're going from there. By the way, fixed mindset people feel threatened by others' success. How many of you have ever seen a gifted child who gets irritated when other people finish before they do? Right? We should end the hurry up and get done race anyway. Let's be really honest. For gifted kids who don't finish before the kids they don't believe are as smart as they are, because they don't go to the gifted class, or for our students who we want to put full effort in, but they start feeling the pressure because everyone's getting up and turning in their papers. Big challenge. So it's our own fault. We've done this by the way we set up school. When you're finished with the stuff I've asked you to do, then you can play in the center, draw, chat with your friends, and they start hearing the paper rustling. It's like that little meme that says, that has Kermit the Frog on it, and that says, you know, everybody's taking a test and they all pull out their calculators and you thought this was a different type of test. Like you're looking around, why was everybody finished? We created that by creating this jump through my hoop, you know, this stuff I'm making you do, and then you get to do the good stuff. And then we complain, and we always complain, kids don't put enough effort in. They hurry through my work. Well, that's because you told them they could play in the center after they were done. I mean, a smart kid is going to rush through the packet full of stuff to get to the good stuff. If I said, your dessert will only be on the table today for 5 minutes. If you really want the chocolate, what are you going to do with the vegetables? Right? I want to get to the chocolate. So if you want the chocolate, hurry and do this. Well, that's backwards. So how do we end that race to finish? Well, first of all, stop letting them get up and turn in papers, because that sends an anxiety to a lot of kids in the room that, oh my gosh, everybody else is finishing. Stop letting them go to do something fun after. Make the fun a part of your schedule if you can. Have kids go back and circle the problems that were the most challenging for you. Star the one that was easy. Write me a paragraph on the back about what you're going to remember about this unit as you finish the test. Do that. Kids do a handwriting assignment. Have them circle their best letter. Have them circle their worst letter. Look at it and figure out what you did wrong. We always complain that kids don't proof, don't go back and change. But we've always got that little star waiting if you finished. Why would I go back? I'm finished. Why would I go back and make more work for myself? I want to go over with my friends. So finding that way to finish that race. Write me a test question. Tell me one way you studied for this unit. Do you think it worked? Do you think it didn't work? So fixed mindset kids give up easily. Growth mindset kids push past this, revise their plan, and they know they're going to have obstacles. Fixed mindset kids avoid challenges. Growth mindset people realize that that's the way to get to learning. Choice and effort, we're going to get there, but choice and effort. If you want to build growth mindset every day in your classroom, talk to kids about struggle and that it's a part of learning. Helping them see that the wrong answers get us to the right answers. Focus on those little video 3-minute clips. How many of you waste 3 minutes in your hour? High school, middle school teacher. You have to tell me there's 3 minutes wasted. Beginning of the hour, end of the hour. Could you be showing those little video clips that talk about effort and struggle and obstacles and having them write an exit ticket sentence to walk out the door? Oh, you just cleaned up 3 minutes, which gave you less classroom management, which gave you an exit ticket and purpose, and you're building growth mindset. Carol Dweck asked me to leave you with one other thing. By the way, growth mindset does not mean pull yourself up by the bootstraps, try harder, suck less. So that's not at all what it is. It's more of this idea of my mindset either makes my job harder or easier to learn the information. So, growth mindset, gifted kids, important for all kids really, but it's more than a lesson. It's really kind of a culture that we need to teach. It needs to be part of what we're talking about on a daily. I hope that came out of your talks, like little ways that you can help them see. If you are an elementary teacher who reads fictional books, could you have them examine characters to see if they're fixed or growth mindset? Could you simply have them see how a story could be different if a character was fixed or growth opposite of what they are? If you're a history teacher, could you talk about growth mindset in the people who made a difference in history? Science, hello, growth mindset, right? There are so many ways we can make this a part of our culture other than just talking about it in a lesson. Here are a few things I want you to think about, because growth mindset leads to self-efficacy, which leads to perseverance, right? So all of these kind of relate together. Process, praise, and teacher talk. So again, going back to that praise piece of teaching kids what their effort and what they're doing is getting them, as opposed to, good job, you're so smart. Policies and procedures that don't conflict with growth mindset. Hello, awards for top grade. Stickers and stars for the most books read. A gifted child should be reading a book that might not be as many as that's not a good way to look at it. Where were you and where do you want to be? Goal setting and what you need to do to get there personally should get you the awards in my classroom. Growth in my classroom should get you awards, not top. Because one of those ways pits me against you. And one of those ways helps me look at your product, your success as just a step. Oh, look, I can emulate what she's doing. She's like me. If she can do it, I can do it. Planning lessons about the brain, metacognition, reflections on growth, and visual support. So if growth mindset, perseverance, struggle, and learning are all important to you, put your hand in the air. Leave your hand in your air if you can think of something right now, visually in your room, that supports that. So I tell people all the time, it's not an objective to teach. It's more about what we do. So I'm going to skip over just because I kind of hit there. Walls and halls. So your walk and talker is important on growth mindset as your walls and your halls. So the things you say to kids are the things they see. Also send a message. So let's look at some. This was a school in Killeen, Texas. that after we talked, they decided to take Dory's motto of let's keep swimming, or just keep swimming, as their school motto for the year on perseverance. Anytime something was difficult, kids, the whole group would say, just keep swimming. Because no matter how many times Dory forgets, she just keeps swimming. They talked about the things that it takes to be a good learner, to build growth mindset. Another school, this was a high school, we talked about growth mindset and perseverance and self-efficacy. And I had a high school teacher who kind of came up and said, Dedra, I teach algebra. It's a lot to teach before the test. And I teach algebra to freshmen. And that in itself is a challenge because they're freshmen. I don't have time to do all this touchy-feely stuff. I think it's good, and I think other people should do it, but it's really not part of my classroom. And I said, well, see if there's just one thing we talk about that you find important, that you could somehow incorporate, because then you're taking a load off of everybody else that apparently needs to teach it so you don't have to. That's that part. But at the end, he said, yet. I do believe that words have power. And the words my kids say to themselves either reinforce a fixed mindset or reinforce a growth mindset. I'm going to tell you that some of your kids are coming from homes of fixed mindset. So they hear nothing but models of fixed mindset. So if you are not changing that, how in the world do you expect them to change? So they need to be hearing growth mindset models. And he said, the power of words is powerful. And I do think the word yet is so important. So he decided to put a big poster at the back of his room. Now, this one's pretty. It was done by a school. He literally took a whiteboard and put yet with a one big red marker because he was in high school. And he put it at the back of the room. And then he announced to everyone at the beginning of the year, we are going to have a rule. We're going to watch our words. Our words have power. When we make statements that are fixed mindset, we're going to stop ourselves and we're going to replay those words in a growth mindset mentality. And to help you do that, if I catch you saying something fixed, I'm going to be the yet police. I'm going to tag you. You're going to have to stand up, go touch the word yet, and reframe what you said with the word yet. Instead of saying, I'm not good at this, you're going to say, I'm not good at this. This doesn't work. I don't know the answer. I can't do this. And he said, the crazy thing, Dedra, was I started this, I thought I was going to have to really pay attention, and then I realized they became their own yet police. I didn't even have to pay attention. Kids would call other kids out for a fixed mindset statement and make them go touch the poster. And he was like, done. I've covered your social and emotional stuff. Check. I was like, whatever. But he was right, because if you had only drilled that thing in, because I told you, I'm very fixed mindset in thinking I could never lose 20 pounds. But in my head, I hear the word, yet, whispered in my ear. By being conscious of your words, you can actually change your brain from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So, where are you supporting failure, mistakes? Maybe you want to ask one of these exit questions as kids leave. What hard thinking did you do today? What mistake did you make this week that taught you something? Maybe you want to have kids do something like this. By the way, this is on the Teaching Kids to Thrive website. You can print it out for free. It's a learning journey for the week. thinking about successes, failures, things you need to do, and building your self-efficacy. What about owning your own timeline? Now, Teacher 101 taught me if I were going to give kids a big, long project, the very first thing I better do is break it up into small, digestible pieces and check for compliance. Because if not, at the end of the 3 weeks, I was going to be super disappointed because some kids were going to do nothing. Some kids are going to wait till the very last minute. I would like to suggest to you that maybe just once a year you have a big project, but instead of you making a timeline, especially 5th grade and above, allow kids to make their own timeline, thinking about their own schedules, soccer tournaments and basketball games and big trips, but that they have to run it by you and you give them feedback. So in small groups, you meet with them, and you look at their timeline, and you say, you said you were gonna write the rough draft on Monday, and you're gonna have the revised copy ready by Tuesday. Do you really think that's gonna work? Do you think maybe if we gave ourselves a few more days in there, it would be a little bit easier? So allowing people to make their own timelines and giving them ideas to come back and look at it again. And then having them reflect on how their timeline worked for them at the end of the project. Would they have done anything different? How about with big projects, they break down the steps into small pieces. You can't learn to ollie until you can stand on a skateboard. You can't write the whole thesis without breaking down the steps. So helping them get there. Sorry, now I'm going backwards. Don't look if you get car sick. Oh, there we are. I hope what you walk away from this is, while teaching, we've got to take the time to teach these little pieces.
Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-travelled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep travelling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action. The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain and experienced neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.
So what I'd like you to talk about, at your table, is how could you use this idea of the fact of rewiring your brain to think of something differently, and then how brains change and grow. Where could you use that in your classroom, pre-K to 12th grade,
Is there somewhere you could talk about this and how you could relate it to something you're doing, or could you incorporate it in something you're doing? Have that talk, see if you can come up with something.
As you can see, I was born without fingers on my right hand, and also my right leg was several inches shorter than my left one. They broke the bones in the leg, then they screwed metal spikes into the bone. It has not only spikes, but wires that go all the way through the leg to stabilize it. I have to walk on it. I have to stretch it out so that my muscles don't just get all atrophied. People always ask me, does it hurt? Yes, it does. But I focus on what I can do, not on what I cannot do. I want to talk with you guys about overcoming obstacles. Everybody has obstacles, a disability, a hurdle. We face a choice. Let the obstacle overcome you or overcome the obstacle. Maybe some of you have heard of Jim Abbott. He was a Major League Baseball player. He won a gold medal in the Olympics. He played for the Yankees, the Angels, but he threw a no-hitter and he only had one arm. When he was a kid, he came home mad one time and told his dad, "The kids won't let me play baseball because I only have one hand." His dad replied, "No, the kids won't let you play baseball because you stink at baseball." You can't change the fact that you only have one hand, but you can change the fact that you stink. So his dad began to practice with him, and he got good. He overcame obstacles. Teams would try to exploit his weak side. They would try to bunt to the side that he had a missing arm. But they never succeeded because he practiced and practiced fielding bunts to that side. There is no dishonor in having a disability, and I won't let anyone diss my ability, but I don't want anyone's pity either. I will not use the obstacles I face as an excuse for having a pity party. I will practice harder, play harder, and push myself harder to keep getting better. Last season, I started on my varsity high school basketball team as a freshman, and I won Rookie of the Year. I was one of the top scorers on the team, so... One of the things that I find funny is that people judge me by appearance. They say, "Oh, look at this one-handed whitey with the limp. I don't want him on my team, you know." But what they don't know is that I don't just have a disability, I have an ability. One of my favorite moments from this last season was we played a team that we had never played before. And when the game started, you could tell that they were dissing my disability. I mean, they double-teamed our tallest player. They just were playing really soft on me. And you could tell, they thought, what can this guy with one hand do? So they left me open for a three. I made that one. They left me open for another one. I made that one. Then they started to get frustrated, so they actually fouled me. I made both free throws. And they called timeout. And as we were in the huddle, I could hear the other coach yelling at his players about me. They went from not covering me at all to double-teaming me. It's all about overcoming obstacles. It's true, I have a disability, but so do you. I also have an ability, so do you. Everyone has obstacles to overcome. Some are visible like mine. Some are less visible. Maybe your obstacle is that you come from a poor neighborhood. Maybe people say you'll never amount to anything. Prove them wrong. Maybe your obstacle is that you have a learning disability and people think that you're dumb. Prove them wrong. Maybe people judge you because of the color of your skin or your family background. Prove them wrong. I know a lot of people who take one look at me and judge me. They say, "Oh, that kid can't be any good at basketball. One leg, one hand." If someone thinks you can overcome the obstacles, prove them wrong.
All right, have a talk about obstacles. This video in particular, or how you can help students see obstacles and how moving past them in your classroom. Go. So to get done what we need to get done, we're gonna have a working lunch. What's gonna happen is I'm gonna put 6 questions up on the slides while you're getting your lunch. And you can either eat and play, or play then eat. Choice is your tables. You have a die on your table. You're gonna, one person's gonna roll a die. The number that comes up, that's the question they're gonna answer, and you're gonna pass it around. If there are 2 of you, you've gotta play more than 2 times just to get it done, sorry. So I'm gonna put that slide up, and then somebody at your table will take a picture. Conversation on the table, thoughts, questions. Questions? Dedra, what about this? What about this? Are we gonna talk about this? Here's something that came out of our discussion. Anyone? Anyone? You mean I am the best presenter? I'm gonna answer all your questions, left you wondering nothing in just the, well, we can just go home now, right? No. Yes?
So we were talking earlier about, like, one of the things out there is curiosity.
Yes.
And, like, the number of questions that recently are asked in the hundreds per day, and then by the time it gets to third grade, it's like less than 5. So, like, I feel like in some way, shape, or form, the way that our education system is set up, that sometimes we kind of
School it out of them.
Right. So, as an adult, like, I'm like, who's that guy that really immediately I asked if I want to make? I'm curious about it.
Right.
And that leads to engagement. Curiosity to me is like the big word that I can think of. So how do you promote curiosity when we have so many things that we have to teach about, we have to educate them about? We kind of talk about setting aside time, having a theme to be able to, it's kind of self-exploration. Because as an adult, we can be curious to do whatever we want and research whatever we want to look at things. But I feel like within the classroom setting, sometimes students don't feel like they have the ability.
Okay, good question, good thought. 2 things I want to talk about. First of all, he said exactly what I tell teachers all the time. Pre-K, K, first grade kids, question, every hand goes up. Something to add, every hand goes up. By about 2nd, 3rd grade, we've schooled that right out of them. Some of that is by the way in which we promote those hands to go up. We say, here's the question, raise your hand if you know the answer. But some of us are unsure if we know the answer. Have a fixed mindset. Don't know if we know the answer. Really just have a question. No questions now, I want the answer. So some of the way in which we teach, so I like to say, tell me what you're thinking. Raise your hand if you're brave enough to tell me what you're thinking. That promotes that idea of us sharing. I also think it's important with early ed, a lot of times they don't get heard, so you get a lot of this. Which then either gives them 2 outlets. They either go to blurting out, you will hear me. You don't have to call me, I'm just gonna say it, or forget it. She doesn't really wanna know what I'm thinking. She never calls on me. And so by the way in which class and getting through the lesson happens, we kind of stifle that down. So I think the way we've been leaning in the last 5 or 6 years of that visible thinking and moving to more think, pair, share, table collaboration gives them that ability to keep placing that out there. How many of you are doing a lot of those table times? So I will say, elementary, it's been going well. When you started in high school, yet they were in this mentality of don't talk, don't talk. When you say, talk amongst yourselves, they go, whatever. And they don't talk. But I think as we promote their ideas and their thoughts and how those relate to curriculum,
that those kids will grow into this a little bit easier. So I think your job is getting easier, middle school, high school teachers, when it comes to table collaboration, as we're training them up to keep sharing, because we had not always been in that mindset. So that's one thing I'm thinking. But the other thing you were saying was, how do we continue to promote that curiosity with all the curriculum? The thing that came to mind when I'm thinking tools, I see, I think, I wonder. Are you familiar with that one? Thumbs up, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so there's an activity called I see, I think, I wonder. It is a perfect bell ringer or end of class activity. And you can just simply Google it. It's from Thinking Visible, but it is this idea of putting a picture up. And that picture could be a science picture. It could be a primary source history picture. It could be a picture from a time period that we're reading in ELA in high school. And then we simply look at it, I see, what do I see? What do I think this is about? What do I think is happening? What do I wonder? What do I still want to know about this picture? Those three questions have one thing in common. There's no right answer. There's no right answer. So helping them do activities like that continues that idea of your thoughts matter, not just the standard answer to the curriculum question. So showing a circuit breaker in a science classroom, or an explosion, or a volcano in a community. I see, I think, I wonder. Some kids will take it totally within your curriculum area. Some kids will take it at a different area at all. Your gifted kids have an outlet. That's an opportunity for them to be honored, challenged, promoted. I see, I think, I wonder. The other activity that comes to mind, forgive me, is it Corey? Right? Yep. Corey. So you've asked me to think out of turn, so I'm kind of like brain switching into another presentation. And there's another activity that comes to mind on that one. And it is also the Thinking Visible kind of activities. I cannot think of the formal name that I can describe it to you. And then maybe it will come to me. So I'm old and I have too much information in my head, so it's not even easily pull the catalog anymore. So it can be a vocabulary word. It can be a story. It can be anything really. But they have to come up with, oh, there it is. There it is. CSI, color, symbol, image. If you Google it, you'll find it. So let's do it with, let's start with an elementary. Very simple. Arthur. You know the little, is he a rad or an aardvark? Yeah, I know. See, my elementary teacher gets super offended. Aardvark. I'm middle school. Is he a rad? Whatever. So Arthur. Arthur's Thanksgiving performance. There's a book about, like, he has to go on stage at school and do a thing. And he's super nervous about doing this. So thinking about Arthur and how he's feeling about getting up on the stage, let's CSI it. What color would represent how Arthur feels? Somebody tell me one. Red. Who else? Huh? Green. Blue. Okay, that's a color. All three of those are correct. But the key to that is what color and why that color. Why blue? He's sad. Why green? Feels sickly. Why red? He feels anxious, embarrassed. All of those are correct answers. The key to the critical thinking piece of that is being able to take what you're thinking, give it a name, and explain it or justify it. How many of you tell them to justify their answers? Critical thinking exercise 101, but with things they can't get wrong. Lovely. again, promotes that curiosity and that communication of their thoughts. So color, then they draw a symbol that represents how Arthur feels. What symbol? Can anybody think of a symbol? A peace symbol, okay? And then why? Why did you pick that symbol? What's that symbol represent? And then an image, we've been doing that since pre-K days. Draw me a picture and tell me what's happening in that picture. Arthur on stage, his face is green. He is standing near the wastebasket because he wants to throw up. That would be an image. Okay, so that's an elementary. Now let's take it up a level. A vocabulary term that they need to remember. A color that represents that vocabulary word, and why? A symbol that represents that vocabulary word, and why? An image that represents that vocabulary word, and why? A character from Romeo and Juliet. Same thing, CSI. Those are ways I would continue to use my curriculum to promote curiosity, creativity. Do you see how that also helps kids who are not traditional learners? Good question, Corey, thank you. And look, I came up with it. I was worried I was gonna have to Google it and send it to you later. I was like, oh, what is that thing? All right, anyone else? Thoughts, questions, things that you were thinking about? All right, let's move on with the presentation. Choices and effort, choices and effort, choices and effort. Oh, Albert Bandura talked about that effortful control. Remember my grit, growth mindset, effortful control. Students who marshal the willpower and regulate their attention during difficult long-term tasks in the face of distractions. I want to teach my students to be able to do that. Now here's the thing. They're born in this generation. You know, the copy-paste generation. I have seen kids work harder at online curriculum to find the answer, copy and paste it, than if they would have just read the 3 paragraphs the online curriculum gave them to get the answer right. I've seen kids work harder to find a shortcut to an answer than if they had just done the work. Why? What is wrong with these children? Because they're the copy and paste generation. They're the generation that says, Alexa, what's the answer? Hey Siri, what's the answer? Want to know something? Google it. Back in my day, no Google. I had encyclopedias. Sometimes we were missing a few letters. And they might have been about 15 years old because we got them from a garage sale. That was my Google. So if I didn't listen to my teacher or pay attention to my teacher or gain that information from my teacher, I was in trouble. But they're used to information being at their fingertips. If they don't listen to you, can they still learn what you're teaching them? They absolutely can. They can also ask an expert, watch a video, listen to a podcast, print out their own happy little worksheets and do them to their heart's content. No longer is it just you that holds the information. Back in the day, we said, gather forth, young children. I am the teacher. I have the information. And the children said, yes, give us the information and we'll carry it out into the world. Now, they can ignore me, have I can't even say it, earbuds in, and go home and figure it out tonight without me. So what is our role? I would task you with the fact that giving them information is no longer really your primary role. Showing them what to do with the information that they have and giving them feedback on how they're progressing through your information is probably your main objective. It's probably your main objective. So effortful control, helping kids regulate their attention. I mean, come on. Our kids play games for hours. They can regulate attention. But guess what? When they get stuck on a level, they go to the internet, find a cheat code, and it moves them to the next level. Back in my day, Nintendo 1, you had 3 lives. And when you died on the 3rd one, you started back at level 1, period, end stop, no cheat code. You die, you start again. Somebody tripped over the cord, you start it again. It got too hot, put it back in, start it again. So these students, their world is cheat code. Easy. Need to know it? Ask Google. We do it too. You ask information all the time, you don't have to remember anymore. Hey, I'm gonna have you do a little test a little bit later, and I'm gonna have you tally some numbers, and half of you will get your calculators out. Well, you probably won't now because I pointed it out, because you can add, you are educated. But most of us will go, oh, let me get the calculator out. I don't trust myself. So they're kind of the same as us. Albert Bandura came up with this idea that self-efficacy, the choices we make, the effort we put forth, how long we persist when we're faced with obstacles, and how we bounce back when we fall in a hole will define our success and failure. And I want you to think specifically about your gifted students. The choices they make, the effort they put forth, so watching for more effort to cheat, to look smart, than to try. How long we persist when we get to obstacles. Do I quit and give up? When I hit something that is hard, if a teacher puts down a challenge, do I not want to try that? And can I bounce back when I get in a hole? Some students honestly don't know what to do when they get down in that deep, deep hole. And I'm going to advise you as teachers to sit down there in the hole with them. Tell them you've been in these kind of holes before too, and help them see the steps to pulling themselves out. That will set them up for success. Handing them 57 worksheets or saying, well, you got 14 zeros, you'll never pass this class. That'll teach you. Doesn't give kids the skills they'll need to be successful in the world. Now, some of you will think, oh, now she's talking responsibility. It's going to teach them responsibility. Maybe teaching them how to overcome a hole they dug themselves into will help them learn responsibility and how to get out of the hole when you get in there. Not how to give up and start over. So I told you this earlier. Students can learn by models. They don't have to have failure. There is an actual book written. I can't remember who put it together, but it's Teaching Students Failure, that we should all give kids opportunities to fail. Well, I kind of think it's like a spectrum. Some kids can take really hard things and fail and bounce back. Some kids aren't quite ready for that yet. So I'm a little afraid to tell, all of you in this room, go back and teach something really hard and let kids just fall on their face. That'll teach them. That worries me just a little bit. But what I do want you to see is we should be pointing out that successful people fail. And that sometimes we fail in this classroom. And the question is, what do we do when we fail? And I need my gifted kids to hear this message, because most of the time in elementary, middle, and high school, some of your very, very bright students have never failed at school. They play school really well. But when the game changes in life, now they're going to be challenged, and we haven't given them this experience. So I'd like to challenge you with this. If you have not challenged a gifted child with something hard in your curriculum, You've set them up to be frustrated and fail later in life. More stickers and stars don't fix it. They have that. I need them to see that everybody struggles. That the brightest of brights struggle. It's what we do when we struggle. That's what we want them to learn. Best way to help children feel good about themselves is to help them see what their strengths are. Not that you're smart, but what are your strengths? Table boss. Go around the table and have everybody name something that a gifted student has a strength at. Go. Okay, somebody tell me a skill you talked about. Yell it out. Not all at once. Creativity. What's another one? Making connections. Detail-oriented. Efficiency. So the connection is not just helping them see what their strengths are. I want them to see how those strengths can help them in their challenges. So how being creative is going to help them. How being efficient is helping them. Helping them connect their strength to how they'll use it in a challenge will help them moving forward. Here's the reality. Keep in mind, a lot of your gifted kids suffer from imposter syndrome. You familiar with it? We've all had it at some point, probably. This idea that other people think you're something and you feel like any minute they'll realize I'm not. Any minute they'll realize this is not who I am. Agree? Some of your students are suffering from that. What if
I'm suffering?
Yeah. That is another self-help talk. No. Get it? I get it. Dude, I'm standing here speaking to all of you. Wrote a book. Got a smart person to help me. But every once in a while I'm thinking, holy moly, if I ask them for random questions, will I be able to answer this? Or will I look like an idiot? Imposter syndrome is real. But acknowledging that to kids, that everyone has those feelings, that everyone has those things, and then remember, we do a lot of smart praising of gifted kids. Oh, would you please lead this table in discussion? You're the gifted child. Oh, you're going to finish early, so please help these other children when you're finished. Oh, can you break this down small? Can you proof my paper and find the mistakes? Right? So we kind of put this on kids. We add to that stress and pressure that they might be feeling from this idea of smart praise. So we want to make sure that the only thing really to help that imposter syndrome is helping them see giving them good feedback. Process praise is the term, process praise. Looking for what they're doing is helping and how it works. Let's see if we can watch this video and tell me what you think. Oh, good.
So check this out. Carol Dweck and her colleagues wanted to look into the impacts that praise had on children's development. So what they did is they took over 400 fifth grade students from all across the nation, and they did a really simple yet interesting study. Here's how it went down. They gave all the kids a really, really easy nonverbal IQ test. There were 10 questions, and at the end of the test, they praised all the children in one of two ways. The first group was praised for their intelligence. So they said, wow, great job. You must be really smart at this. Now the second group was praised for their effort. So they said, wow, great job. You must have worked really, really hard at this. Now this is a really subtle difference, but the impact it had is incredible. So after praising the kids and getting them divided up into the two groups, they gave them all an option for their next test. The first option was, hey, this next test is going to be a little bit harder, but it's going to be a great opportunity to learn and grow. Now, the second option was, this next test will be similar to the first, and you will surely do well on it. Now, the interesting thing is, out of the group that was praised for their intelligence, 67% of them chose the easier option, while 92% of the kids who were praised for their effort chose the harder test. This is unbelievable to think about, how just the subtle difference in the way that they were praised had such an impact. Carol Dweck explains why this happens.
Child or adult hears, oh, you think I'm brilliant and talented. That's why you admire me. That's why you value me. I better not do anything that will disprove this evaluation. As a result, they enter a fixed mindset, they play it safe in the future, and they limit the growth of their talents. Whereas focusing on the strategies they use, the way they're stretching themselves and taking on hard tasks, the intense practice they're doing. Those are the kinds of things that say to a child or an older athlete, it's about the process of growth. As a result, they don't feel, oh, if I make a mistake, you won't think I'm talented. They think, oh, if I don't take on hard things and stick to them, I'm not going to grow.
Next, Dweck and her colleagues gave all the kids a really, really difficult test. It was one that they would surely fail, but they wanted to look at how the different kids attacked this challenge. Dweck noticed that the group that was praised for effort worked harder, longer, and actually enjoyed this test more than the group that was praised for their intelligence. This group got really frustrated with this test and had the tendency to give up early. After this artificially induced failure round, all of the kids were given a third and final test. Now, this test was the same level of difficulty as the first one, but check out the results. The group that was praised for their intelligence actually did worse on this test than the first one. Their average score actually dropped by 20%, while the group that was praised for their effort did significantly better, raising their average score by nearly 30%. This is a 50% difference in performance that was caused by a few subtle differences in the way that they were praised. This study shows how praise can either make or break a child's development. I mean, we all do it. We all want to be positive with the children we work with, so teachers, coaches, parents are always looking for ways to support their kids and tend to praise them quite a bit. So we need to look at research like this and realize, okay, praise is a good thing and there's nothing wrong with being positive, but we need to be very careful about praising someone's intelligence or abilities and focus more on the process and the effort that they put forth. I think this is a pretty easy fix that will help us develop growth mindsets within the kids that we work with. And as all the research shows, having a growth mindset has a big time impact on the development of a child, whether it's on the court, in the classroom, or just in life. Thanks so much for following along and watching this video. For more like...
Okay, table boss, lead a discussion. What did you see? What did you hear? What did you notice? All right, so normally I'm gonna call out a table. I would probably fall to the noisiest table or the back of the room table. But this morning coming in, I heard some people say, you know, if you sit at the front of the room, they won't pick on you.
They said that, the two guys.
It was one of these tables. I can't remember which one. But I'm gonna call them this table. What's a cream? Give me something.
No, I got a full second. We talked about how when you do praise a guy's effort, a kid's effort, it's something that they've done. It's good to always point out, like, hey, I appreciate what you did, make it clear that there's a connection between you and that student. We're a team going for the same thing. But also, there are going to be opportunities where maybe a kid tries and still doesn't do very good. See if you can find something to highlight in that effort that they did and make that their big point. I was referencing, we just did some of our diagnostic testing, and I pulled every single student up and said, hey, this is what you did well on, this is what you did bad on. But trying to find something, even if their score was not where we wanted it, hey, look at this, man, you got a 2 in this section, and the state average is a 1.3. Man, look at that. You put all that effort in, and look where it got us. And the lights kind of turn it on for the kids. that's what you're hoping for with this stuff, and we think that we can do that in our own classrooms even more moving forward.
Oh, listen to him. All right, so since you guys were quick to point to them, let's go. Yeah, I see this. Come on, Brian, give me your cream.
We think, you know, like, we're first grade teachers. So we overpraise, which is great. We praise. Like you said, you can look at scores and find something. We're talking about our lower kids that are not listening up front, not paying attention, so they're not growing the way you want them to. But you bring that to their attention and show those positives where they did something well. Give them the praise. We see them start to work harder.
Yeah.
We have to do that a lot.
That's right.
In first grade, over and over again.
Everybody take your hand. This hand is praise. This hand is the effort. So when you say good job, you need to say specifically what it is they did that was good. So you were sitting at the front listening. You applied yourself on this reading section and took your time. I could see you brainstorm some ideas before writing that paragraph. I could see you were citing different facts from the notes or the textbook. I could see you were collaborating with your partner. What is it that's good tied to what specifically they did? And then do this. What did it get them? So I want you to not only help them, praise them for what they're doing, but show them what it got them. By sitting at the front, using your listening ears, you knew exactly what we needed to do when we went back to the desk. Maybe you weren't able to do it, but at least you knew what you were supposed to be doing. You, by having your notes organized, were able to refer back to them and grab the information to put in this project. That probably made it a little bit easier for you, right? So praise, effort, what it gets them. That's gonna help them connect those skills together. Is it silly that in 11th or 12th grade, you should have to be so blatant and point those things out? Here's the reality. Some kids are doing it because somebody taught them to. A, Cornell notes. Anyone use them in high school? Cornell notes. So there's a real reason why Cornell notes work. Some kids are just doing it because that's what we do. But helping them see how it helped them. Look, you were able to use this reflection thing the day after to reflect back and look through your notes. Like that made you retain that information better. Good job. Like I still have to do a good job. I'm an 80s kid, like good job. But I just do it at the end now. I start with what they're doing, what it got them, and then I go, good job. Because it's my reflex. Thoughts or questions? Okay, so I picked on my two front, right here, back of the table. Did you guys go already? Okay, cream, give me the cream.
We talked about how it's important for not just to say the compliment or praise the entire group, but specific individual student. That's even more valuable to them than hearing the whole class worked really hard on this test. I can see that you all did the best effort. Specifically, Johnny did this, Susie did that.
And that's what I'm blown away because he's a high school teacher who pulls his kids one-on-one and has a talk about what they're doing right, what it got them. And I would figure then you're talking about then their growth points, like where are we going from here? What's the next thing you have to work on? Let's conquer this. So we're breaking it down small. So remember that whole ability to persevere is to be able to set goals and stick to them. Well, sometimes you need to be guided through that process. Anyone else want to add anything? So I used to ask kids on the test, last question, what did you do to prepare for this test? Then when I handed the test back, I asked them, what did you do to prepare for this test and what grade do you think you made? Then when I gave it back to them, you know, with all the feedback on that they usually go, C, whatever. Then I made them look back. What did they think they were going to get? What did they get? And if they had to do it again, what choices would they make that were different? Or can they tie any of their choices to the result that they actually got? So maybe you didn't study till the night before. Maybe you just glanced at the information. Did that result in your grade? That's metacognitive learning, thinking about thinking. Helps all my students get better. I want my students to see how their choices and their effort are tied to their success or failure. If I can help them do that, life gets so much easier. So much easier. So I want to look at goal setting. I want to celebrate successes, but I want to make sure that they know how they were, not just because you took a random test and you're bright. Like, I want you to see what your successes are and what you did to get there. I want to do process praise. I want to give kids my the opportunity to make decisions, practice their skills. I want kids to get stuck. Teachers hear me when I say we always complain that parents swoop and save too quick. But often schools pay me to come in and do observations with teachers and then kind of like walk away with the big takeaways and give feedback to them. And what I see is sometimes we swoop and say, oh, I don't want them to be stuck or frustrated. Let me give them the answer. Let me give them the, but a little struggle is not a bad thing, right? I'm going to tell you, struggle and then the conquering of that struggle is a better feeling than easy on the first run. So, story. Are there any people in here that run for fun? What? Yeah, I know. They exist. So those people are familiar with something called the runner's high, which is this theory or idea that when you push yourself to a point where you think, like, you set your goal, you can't get there, you're not sure if you can get there, and you push and you push and you think, oh, I'm never gonna make it, never gonna make it. But you keep pushing yourself and you finally cross that imaginary line that you made for yourself. The endorphins that kick in are supposed to be better than drugs. They're huge. Now, what did I tell you earlier this morning? If I run, you should follow, because there's no fun in there. But I will tell you, I have experienced what I think to be very close to a runner's high while writing this first book. There was a point where you can make all the note cards in the world, you can do all the research in the world, you got it all laid out in your office. It's all around you. But you have to write the first chapter, or a chapter. It doesn't have to be the first, you have to write a chapter and figure out the flow. My husband came in one night, by the way, I'm a night girl. I do most of my best thinking, like from about 9 o'clock at night until about 2 in the morning. Some of you, that's like gross sounding, I know. And so my husband comes in about 9 and he's like, so what are you doing? And I was like, I have to actually write the chapters now. He was like, well, Dedra, you said you were going to write this book. So I was like, but I can't. Imposter syndrome. And he goes, yet? And I was like, oh. Yeah. He said, I'm sure you're going to figure it out. You have all your notes. You have all the things you need. Just take one first step. I'm going to bed. I was like, whatever. So I drank my cup of coffee, plowed in. I might have thrown a few drafts away. But about 4:30 in the morning, I had the system, the way the chapters were going to flow, what I was putting in them. I had a good beginning, a good ending. I had some meat. I needed to go through some details, but it felt really good. And at that point, I was like, I can do this. Nobody swooped in and wrote it for me. I didn't go copy and paste it away. I actually had to do the thing. But when I did it, it was sweet. 4:30 in the morning, up all day, up all night. I had more energy. I could have ran for fun at 4:30 that morning if I wanted to. And it took everything I had when I crawled into bed to not go, hey, read this, it's good. That was my runner's high experience. I would challenge you to think that every single child in your classroom deserves sometime between their pre-K to their 12th grade year to experience that runner's high in education. To have had something hard laid upon them, to have been taught the steps, to have done the work, to have been guided when they needed guiding, but then struggled when they needed to struggle, so they can feel that self-efficacy of knowing they can. They absolutely can when they need to. Discussion at your table. What does this feel like, sound like, look like in your classroom? Go. So I want to talk a little bit about the way we get to success or failure and how it builds into our self-efficacy or how it doesn't actually add or subtract anything at all. So if a student gets to success or failure, it doesn't matter. If they get to it and can connect the effort they had in that success or failure, they've learned. So if a student fails, that can connect their effort or lack of to that failure, they've learned. If they've been successful by way of their effort, they've learned, kind of like I did with my writing experiment. But if they attribute their success or their failure to their talent or ability, I'm just smart. I failed because I don't do math. Or if they get to their success or failure by luck, I just guessed all the right answers. I just had bad luck and got the really hard version of the test. I bet you've had in your one-on-one talks with kids. Some kids see their effort. Some kids look at those scores and go, I just guessed wrong. Oh, I just guessed right. Mr. Ryan, I just guessed it right. I didn't even know what I was doing. So there was no build there. If they attribute their rightness or their wrongness to their ability or their talent or their luck or how hard the task is, there's nothing to be gained or learned from that situation. If we can help them tie it to their effort. So this was your score. What did you do that attributed to that or took away from that? If we can help them make that connection, we've helped them learn whether they've had success or failure. So I think about my granddaughter who loves softball. She's a 4th grader now, but very early on when she was playing softball, and I mean, she was serious from like T-ball softball age, and she played really hard. But bless her little heart, some girls that come to play T-ball softball aren't really in it to win it. Like, they're like, it's hot, I'm ready to quit. And she would go, oh, they won't try. And so she would get so frustrated because they would lose again. We started out really well, and then Mary Beth cried, and everybody else cried, And then nobody wanted to try anymore. Nobody wants to hit. Nobody wants to be a catcher because you might get hit by a ball or a bat. And so she would just get so frustrated. And so I had to help her connect her wins and her losses to the effort. Where did you improve? Whether the team won, but did you improve? Did you hit harder than you hit last time? Did you watch the ball? Did you run harder? Where was your effort that improved your growth? That's what counts. And then from a very early age, I keep telling her 10,000 hours. You know what I'm talking about? 10,000 hours. You want to get good at anything, you must have 10,000 hours of good practice. Not crappy practice. Can't just hit the keys on the piano over there. You gotta actually hit the notes that make sense. You gotta do it correctly. You gotta have your hand in the right posture. And I would say 10,000 hours. You wanna be good at softball? You need 10,000 hours. So she'd go, we lost again. I said, did you get another hour of practice? Yeah. What did you do well? Where did you give your best effort? Where could you have worked harder? You gained a better hour. You're getting closer. And she's like, 10,000 hours is a lot, Mommy. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. But you want to get good at softball, that's what you have to do. Guess what she's doing now? Learning piano. And at first, she was like, this is dumb, this is stupid, I don't like this. And you know, her teacher's having her play like Yankee Doodle, and she was unimpressed. She went to have to do the concert, and she had to play Yankee Doodle, she was unimpressed. But I had her see, like every hour you work at it, every time you practice, if you practice correctly, if you run by the piano and play it as you run, that's not correct practice. So I had to help her tie her effort to her results. I think that helps her grow more than in softball, more than in piano. She's going to apply that to all areas of her life. By the way, she's a girl who struggles in math. Her brain struggles with her math concepts. Now she can read, she does all kinds of things really well, but it took us a while to figure out that math was a struggle for her. And so she wants to go with, I don't do math well. And I'm like, but if you want to be a good mathematician, what do we have to do? And she's like, 10,000 hours of math? Maybe. So I keep telling her, no, you just need more practice at this. You just need to practice more. I don't want her to see that anything is talent-driven or just born with it, because then she'll quit at anything that's hard and rack it up to, that's just not my thinking, so I'm just not good at it. Thoughts, questions, concerns? I like this. I want to promote this. Now let me just tell you, we've all been on that side of the screen. We've all said, well, that professor is really hard, so I dropped that class. We didn't say, he's really hard, I'm going to learn something while I'm struggling through that class. No, we were like, GPA, need it up, getting away from there. Which is fixed mindset. Gifted kids have a huge risk of being fixed mindset because one of the things they do really well at is play school. And school itself is a fixed mindset game. Which is insane that we now write books on promoting growth mindset. And I tell you to promote growth mindset, but we don't award grades based on effort. We don't put those dots in that data room on kids against their own growth. We look at where that line is, who's on the bubble, where's our grade for the school, the district, the county. So we're a very fixed mindset. in the way we do grades, the way we report things, but we have to like break that up with these growth mindset ideas, because we know that's really where the problem has been. Because we played fixed mindset grading, one against the other. Here's the bar, meet it or not. And then kids got out of the real world, and the kids that did really well were struggling the most, right? So we know there's a hole in it. We're not ready to revamp the whole system because, let's face it, we've all become educational accountants. You know, you tally the scores, you average them together. It's nice and neat. Everything makes sense. When I start talking about some of this other stuff, you're gonna freak out. I get it, I've been there. So how do I build self-efficacy? Students can build self-efficacy by watching others and seeing people who are similar to them. So it's very important that if you are talking to students, that you are choosing to highlight people who have self-efficacy and what they've done to be successful that look like them and sound like them. Self-efficacy by coaching. Now, it's different than you can do anything, go, 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 chug, 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 but more of the line of, you have this capability, here's your weakness, let's work on that. You don't go to football practice and they all just say, you either make it or you break it. They say, you need to go over here and work on kicking. You need to work on tackling. You need to like go back to the playbook and read those and know those when we call them. Like everybody has an area to improve. It's hard as teachers to get through the curriculum and then know everyone's area to improve. Your gifted kids have areas to improve. So we need to help them see those areas, help them see what needs to be broken down so that they are challenged within our curriculum, even though much of it comes super easy for them. How many of you have gifted kids who are super well-versed at articulating their thoughts? I have a hard time putting it down on paper, right? So that's an area of weakness. That's an area we need to work on. How can I help them break it down? How can I help them get there? And when they struggle with that and have success, they'll feel really good and they'll be able to apply that to many other areas. Self-efficacy by positivity. The more we feel, we want an upward spiral, not a downward spiral. So we want them to see that emotions enable them to see solutions to problems. So like, how do I feel? What's my problem? What am I going to do about it? How does that make me feel? How does it feel when I solve a problem? Oh my goodness, how touchy-feely is Dedra going to go here today? But if you want kids to remember solving problems and the things they're using, then help them tap into the emotions of it. Oh, goodness. Teaching failure, I told you that. Where can we get to that point where we teach failure? Let's have the homework talk. Now, you give homework? Do kids ever not do your homework? Or you give classwork they don't finish, they're supposed to take home and finish it, and then they don't bring it back. Finish. Is that a problem here in Ohio or not? You guys saw that? So do you give them zeros? Or did your school ban zeros? I know, right? I don't know. I mean, everybody's afraid to talk. There are principals in this building, superintendents too. So here's the reality. This form is what I used in my middle school classroom. I had a motto: make it harder to fail my class than to pass my class. If you fail my class, Julianne, I'm gonna say, I must have done something wrong. Let me sit with you and reteach you because you struggled to learn and I didn't do a good job. Now, did I know that Julianne didn't do her homework, didn't pay attention, had an earbud in half the time? Probably so. But reality is, my job is to teach them the standards, not be an educational accountant, add up her 14 zeros, count them against her, and put it in. I'll never forget, I had a teacher in high school who called me up and he wanted to show me how all my zeros, along with my A on his test, gave me a C. And if I just do my homework, I could have had an A. What he didn't know is I came from a home of trauma, and doing homework was just not something I had the mental capacity to do. So what I tried to do is, because he didn't grade all homework, he only graded some. It was like this game of gotcha. And so I tried to outsmart him and figure out when he was going to do it and then have it then. But I listened in class. I learned in class. I didn't know that math ahead of time. But I listened and learned, and I could generally pass his test. But I didn't do the homework. So when you looked at my score on that transcript, I had a DC. But my knowledge over the math was what? AB probably. Next to a kid who did all their homework, but made a C on their test. Our scores were the same, but is our knowledge of algebra the same? Absolutely is not. Want to blow your mind even further? Watch a video from Rick Wormley, my co-author of my other book. Educational accounting doesn't work. Averaging and scoring grades is not helpful. And it certainly doesn't promote learning to learn. It promotes jumping through the hoops to jump through the hoops. Yes.
I agree with most of that, but like my first graders know to do their homework effort. I'm gonna go home. If mom's not gonna help me, I'm gonna do it myself. Mr. Khan's gonna help me the next day. I have probably any kids not bringing their homework back because of the effort part. They're doing it because they know this is what I'm trying to teach them, how to be a good citizen, good student, part of it.
Which is exactly what I promoted with this. Right, well, it's first grade, right?
We're still giving grades.
You're not giving stickers and stars only?
I do that too.
Okay. The smelly ones, those are the important ones. But that's what this form was about. If a kid didn't have homework in my classroom, it wasn't really about them not having the homework. To me, I wanted them to connect why they didn't do it and how they could solve that issue if it were happening again. If you had a soccer game, how could you have done your homework even despite the soccer game? If your mom picked you up after school and you never even got home, how could you have solved that? I wanted my middle schoolers to see that there is a way when you have obstacles to solve those problems. But then I said, but guess what? I still need it. Because I don't know if you don't know if I don't have it in my hands. So this was my data collection. After I had 3 or 4 of them, I called home to talk about the problem, just like I would with zeros. But kids could turn in homework, dare I say it, late. And I didn't take any points off for being late, because points off for being late skews the grade. That trauma girl who would have been late but made an A now gets a 70 because that's all she can make because she was a day late. You could ask Google and Siri, and your mom has a special time, and oh, by the way, your mom looks at your worksheet, erases all the wrong answers, makes you do them again, and spoon feeds you the answer so that you get 100. Your grade is better than mine, but we know the same amount. Just food for thought, and some of you were like, I liked her until now, but now I don't like her. Just a thought. So you forgot your homework builds self-efficacy. Oh, look, Kyle's like, we're gonna derail this sucker. We're going all the way down. He's a high school teacher. Here we go. Come on, Kyle.
Today's the day I get fired. Today's the day I get fired.
You'll make more money.
Have we reached the point where homework has become obsolete?
Especially in middle school.
You want my opinion?
I mean,
Look,
if we're diving down into
yeah.
it, we might as well dive.
Hey, here's the thing. You can say, I went to a workshop, this lady said, they'll probably never bring me to your district. But I'm gonna tell you, yeah, if you're asking the wrong questions on homework. The questions on homework should be critical thinking questions. And I'm not saying critical thinking questions that come with the work, with the book, that say critical thinking questions, A, B, and C. Because if you'll Google those questions, somebody's made a quizzes with those answers. As long as they can copy and paste the answers, what's the point? As long as they can ask Siri or Alexa, what's the point? My challenge to you would be to look at flipped classrooms, especially since you're a math teacher. So that we're not, remember I said earlier today, I dare you to challenge yourself that you're not the person giving the information anymore. The information is everywhere. Your job is really to help them use the information to do the thing and give them feedback on how they're doing with the thing. That's really your job now. That's not the way I was taught. That's not the way I was taught to teach. Heck, I was a history teacher for several years. I can tell you history better than the history book. My kids would I would finish a good story and they'd go, Miss Stafford, you should run for president. And now I know I could have. But reality is, redos and homework are an opportunity for self-efficacy. Whether it's a redo on a test, how will I ever get to the end if they're always redoing tests? And it gets messy, and that's a whole nother workshop. But building self-efficacy is, where's my effort? What did it get me? I still need to show I know it. What am I going to do about it? How am I getting over this obstacle? What am I going to do to fix it? Where's my thinking? So my question is, what are you sending home and how is it really valuable? And just FYI, elementary teachers, when you send home those seek and finds, I found the words for my kids while they did the meaningful homework questions. Because I was like, what in the world do you learn by finding these 14 words on this paper? I'll do this one. You do the rest. It's really about thinking. But what happens is we are like these dog trainers. We have all these hoops we want kids to jump through, to show. But really the question is, can you do the standard? And how do I see evidence that supports that you can do that standard? Oh, I'm gonna go down. I'm getting a little off sidetrack. But is one person's evidence of being able to do the standard look different than another person's evidence? Is that okay? Gifted children, their evidence should be looking different. And if it is, you've probably built in struggle already. But if they're doing what everyone else is doing and quickly finishing and helping others, they'll never experience the struggle. So I have these two forms. This one's a homework form. This one's a test form. So this one asks, if you got another chance to take this test, what would you do differently? Explain your procedure for this test before you took this test. And what have you learned from this experience? So it's that metacognitive connection of the hole you got in, how you're gonna get out. How many of you have ever complained that kids just don't try? Well, if they have to write out why they didn't try and what they're gonna do different, and then I say, oh, we're not done. Juliana, you didn't learn, and my job, they don't pay me if I don't teach you. So You're gonna learn because I need lights. Let's sit back down. My kids learn real fast. In Miss Stafford's class, you gotta make a D or a C, because if you make an F, she's gonna make you eat lunch with her until you can pass that test. And so I'll just study, thank you. At least it'll be enough to keep her out of your face. Make it harder to fail than it is to pass. Gifted students. They believe smart equals easy. If I'm smart, it should be easy. That's our fault, not their fault. That's our fault, not their fault. Smart equaling easy, that's something we have done to them. And what you will notice is when it's not easy, some of them will cheat, even though they're perfectly capable. Gifted kids get so scared of not being smart. And do you know the pressure their families put on them? You've made straight A's all the way through school. Middle school, high school teachers, stand up loud and proud if you gave a kid their very first B. Stand up. Yeah, give them a round of applause, because they took the brunt for the rest of us. Because that kid cried, their parents called. When they didn't get the answer they wanted from you, then they went to the principal. And if they had a superintendent in their pocket, he got a phone call too. Right? Truth. I've also given first attentions to. There's tears in connection with that to a perfect child. Especially if it's a gifted child. Because, you know, they can do no wrong. If I were the queen of education, I would take away all F's. There would be no F's. It would be A, B, C, D, T. We're so sorry you didn't learn. Try again. You don't get to quit here. This whole idea, I mean, think about it. How fixed mindset is the education system when we went A, B, C, D, E? Oh no, there's no bad words for E. Skip that one, let's go to F. Fail, fail. Yep, you got a 0, you failed. But growth mindset says failure is an opportunity to learn. So it is an oxymoron that we keep asking you to do growth mindset in a world of fixed mindset. But all I can tell you is I can only change one thing. Let's start at the classroom. Eventually, the kids we raise up on growth mindset will become lawmakers, and that's apparently who makes all the decisions for education. And so they'll make the decisions that make all the difference. So we'll get them there, right? We're gonna get that growth mindset in there eventually. So this was our quote this morning. We want students to feel seen, known, appreciated, challenged, and supported. Let's look at a few other things when it comes to gifted. Our students that are gifted, even though they're gifted beyond their age in math or science or language arts or whatever their skill is, they may be slower to develop in other areas. Agreed? Right. So it's kind of our job to know their intellectual development versus their social and emotional development. How many of you have a kid? Bright, smart, but cannot work with a group? How many of you have a kid who will gladly work with a group, but they become a dictator of said group? Cannot release control, perfectionism, shuts down, doesn't want to do anything. Physical development can be their struggle. We have to provide experiences for different levels of development and help them get to their higher order of thinking. Here's the thing. Group projects are an opportunity to learn skills that may or may not be in your blueprint. Talking and using your ideas to express, using your voice to express your ideas is a skill. It's no fun. There are people in this room, if I handed the mic to, they would just like, right? It's not Kyle, but it's some of us. So what can we do? Have that talk at your table. Helping my gifted students who might struggle with group dynamics, reading social signals, writing or expressing their ideas. What can we do to scaffold that? So think special ed. Gifted kids still need scaffolds just like everybody else. What can we do to scaffold that? Have that discussion. Go. Okay. Gifted kids, self-regulation. Our gifted children, especially in creativity and intellect, tend to have very strong emotions. Elementary teachers, that check, like they get super emotional. The more creative, the more intellect they have, they get super emotional. So what does that look like in middle school and high school? I mean, we know what it looks like in elementary, right? They get mad really easy, they get frustrated really easy, and you can like see it. My favorite, I have a school I've been working with closely, and bless his little heart, there's a third grader, and he's very bright, but his emotional regulation when he gets frustrated is not there. So if you give him a question that he just cannot pop the answer off to, I see the cartoon where the steam comes out your ear, like that's like, and he's smaller than most, and he goes, and then the teacher's like, oh Lord, he's gonna blow. And so she's like, it's okay, take a breath, Logan. I want you to think. Let's think about this. What's your best guess at this? And he's like, oh, this is a stupid question. And he literally cannot even get it out with and I just see him getting older and thinking, if we don't help him regulate, he's going to throw a chair, punch a wall, or a teacher. Self-regulation, when you have a high amount of intellect, as an elementary child, can be very evident. Now let's talk middle school and high school. What does it look like then when they have strong emotions? Sometimes it's not easy to see in your classroom. It can brew from underneath. Where will you see it? Sometimes in doodles, right? Sometimes in side talk that's really quiet that you can't hear unless you have good teacher ears. Sometimes their attitude towards others can be the evidence of their strong emotions in your classroom. So helping students regulate social role playing when they're young. Older, let's set your positive personal best goals. So creating what's your personal best, let's try to beat that again. So here's your personal best. You don't have to get up here. But let's try to beat that. Debbie Siller does this great example of how coaching can make a huge difference. Like just having someone tell you what it is you're doing that's working and keep doing that. Tie your process phrase. And so she has somebody come up and they have to kick her hand, and she raises her hand, and then she keeps going higher. And with good coaching, you can go up, up, up. So as you being the coach, setting their personal best, helping them get better, and helping them see what? Their growth. where you were and what you gained. Helps a student that has strong emotions. Learning experiences with real life issues, and some coping mechanisms. If you have more emotions than you know what to do with, you better have some tools in your toolbox. Perfectionists need tools in their toolbox. Procrastinators need tools in their toolbox. Strong emotions, frustration with other kids. What are your tools in your toolbox? On our website, we have a thing, I don't think I have it in here, it's called hot button triggers and cool brain reactions. And it's literally just thinking out scenarios before they happen. Because once you're in your hot brain, no words of wisdom from a teacher help. Have you ever noticed that? When they get the crazy look in their eyes, you can take them into the hall all you want. Everything you're saying to them is for your benefit, because they're just thinking, right? Full brain reactions. So I see in the group, when you're in the group work, Emily, what upsets you every time you work with a group? Let's pretend you're a strong emotion, gifted child.
When others don't agree with what I say.
When others don't agree with what I say. So let's look back. Let's help her explore some real life issues. And I'm gonna go, first of all, a little empathy always gets the door open. I get it, Emily, because I'm a teacher and I like everybody to agree with me too. But have you ever had, like, let's say, ice cream, chocolate or vanilla? What do you like, Emily? You love chocolate, but I love vanilla. Does that make me, and you guys might say it differently in Ohio. Do you say it differently than vanilla? Okay. Some people have a weird twist on the word vanilla. I just realized, like, that might be your southern area coming out. Sorry, sidetrack. So I like vanilla. I like it's crisp and it's clean and it's not too rich. I can eat a lot of it before I'm sick of it. Like chocolate, I can only have a few bites. Can you see how, like, chocolate can be thick and strong and, like, some people can only eat a few bites? So does that make me wrong or just different? What do you think, Emily? Am I wrong or am I different when it comes to ice cream?
The answer is different.
Let's talk pizza, Emily. Do you like pineapple in your pizza? Oh. How many people in this room believe pineapple should never be put on pizza? It's a fruit, does not go. So is that wrong, or is that just someone's opinion? So sometimes when we're having group discussions, different people are gonna think different things. What we need to do is, if we have to come to a group decision, we have to figure out a way to meet in the middle. So do you think majority vote? Or do you think we find a compromise? What do you think works for this group? Let's establish those rules before we work in our group. That's something we can do. But let's say we established it was majority vote, Emily, and chocolate lost. But you still truly believe chocolate is the ice cream. What are some of the things that would happen to you? Like, you're gonna get mad? Are you gonna wanna tell people they're wrong? Okay, so I'm gonna list these things that she's gonna do. She might wanna get up and walk away. She may wanna quit doing the PowerPoint that we're working on together. I guess you don't do those anymore, probably something a little more, like, I'm PowerPoint 101. So making a Canva, a Flipgrid, like, you're gonna stop doing the thing. But let's think about this. If we stop, are you gonna be able to keep adding your ideas? No. So instead of stopping, how could we do it? Could we put a slide in that said some people really still believe chocolate? Would that fix it? Okay. So we could suggest that they add a piece of what you're thinking. So that might be something. If you get really upset and you want to walk away, instead of walking away and not coming back, what could you do?
Second to take a deep breath and find
Oh, a deep breath and calm down. Maybe we've taught her the 3 breathes technique. Maybe she could get up and go ask to take a drink, get a drink and come back. Maybe she could just say, I need to walk around the room for a minute. So whatever tactic seems to work for her, I'm gonna help her build her catalog so that when she's in this group thing, scaffolding to those interpersonal skills, I've taught her her hot button triggers and her cool brain. Now, some of you are thinking, Dedra, I just want a flip grid created on the differences between the Civil War, soldiers of the North and the South. I don't have time for all this personal growth. Remember what I said my college professor said his main job was? To rest easy on the bank, drinking beer and fish, make good citizens. If I help Emily work through this in her 7th grade geography class or history class, I'm building a better citizen. And Kyle's gonna thank me later because when she gets to high school, she still has all these tools in her toolbox and she can use them. Does this take time? Yep. What's the rest of class doing while I'm doing this with Emily? I was gonna say, going to hell in a handbasket. That's what they're doing. But could I figure this out? Could I be, we watch a reflective video on our Google Classroom and answer 3 questions, and Emily just gets a pass on that. What? Educational accounting will all be messed up. You know my theory on that. It's not about the X's and the O's in the grade book, it's about the learning. Because Emily, being the bright child she is, she could probably skip the video and still answer the 3 reflective questions, which, by the way, I gave credit for just doing them anyway. That's how you get it done. If you don't have that, maybe you hold Emily over. Maybe you pull her from, there's a free day happening, or, oh Lord, we don't do those anymore. But maybe there's something happening where we're doing lots of activities and I'm moving around. I believe in small group instruction all the way through high school. This would be a time that I might grab Emily and 2 other kids that are having the same problem that may or may not be gifted, but are struggling with group work. And I'm gonna set them up to success. I'm gonna scaffold them to win. So that when I come time to do my group assignment, they're ready. And then you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna remind Emily. I'm gonna prep her. I'm gonna say, hey, Emily, next week, we're gonna get in new groups. Now, I'm selecting the groups, but I picked a good group for you. But I want you to remember the tools we talked about 2 weeks ago. When we get frustrated in groups, you've got this, and if you have any problems, come to me. I'm gonna teacher support you until you get that self-efficacy. Until you can walk on that bridge by yourself, I'm gonna stand beside you and walk you through it. Thoughts, questions, concerns. You're not getting out earlier because you don't ask questions. I'm just saying. Okay, group talk it then. All right. Now that you got a little time to discuss it, it's your last run at it. Anyone want to ask a question? Say a thought. Dig deeper. Anyone? Something that came from your talk. Ask a question. Dig deeper. Oh, so sorry. Yes, Kyle's table.
We talked about how the biggest thing is like you have to set your teams, especially when you are doing like tier 1 with the students or children. You have to set those expectations for teams in the first 2 months of the school year stuff because you are building those routines. But once you have it, they know what to expect. They know how to act. You're able to do that quality tier 1 with them. Absolutely.
Go slower so you can go faster. The worst advice you ever get is from a veteran teacher who says, oh, it's day 10, I'm already giving the unit test. And then you feel the pressure to go ahead and keep moving forward. I tell people all the time, especially with any type of classroom management, go slow, develop your very long routines. You'll speed up when it counts. And they'll be struggling at that same level. Anyone else? Thoughts, questions?
Challenges? Going once. Going twice. All right. Now, this isn't really gifted, and there are lots of slides in here for this, but I want you to think about how it might apply. How many of you have heard the term learned helplessness? What is learned helplessness? Tell your, oh, whoops, I had it on the screen. Tell your team what you think learned helplessness is. Go. So let's talk a little learned helplessness. By the way, I just had you share with your group what you think it means. No risk, there's no wrong answer. But the critical thinking research tells you when students have to think about what something means prior to you telling them what it means, they actually remember what it means better. So a lot of times I will give kids an index card or a sticky note, and I will put a term or something we're about to learn. And I say, what do you think that means? What do you think we're going to be learning? What is this about? And then I teach them. And then they look back at what they had versus what it is. Where are the commonalities? Where are the differences? Ooh, tool for your worksheet. Challenge. So learned helplessness is this idea where it's basically a cycle. I feel like I am not good at this, so I avoid it or I don't try. Because I avoid it or don't try, guess what I get? Bad results. Bad results give me reinforcement of what I already knew. I can't do this, see? And because I can't do this, it just reinforces. I can't, so I won't, so I don't, so I fail. I can't, so I won't, so I don't, so I fail. You have students that come to you that are stuck in that cycle. They've been reinforced from a very early age. We haven't been able to scaffold them. We haven't been able to tier 2 or 3 them. We have not gotten them to where they need to be. So they come to us looking much like this. I have lots of slides that I'm not going to cover, but are going to be in the presentation that help you think about what you're saying and doing that will help with this. But I want you to see this little video clip. And I want you to think specifically, can learned helplessness be a factor in anything that might give, I love a video that plays on its own. Can this scenario, she's going to show you how learned helplessness can be learned so very quickly in a little scenario in a classroom. But I want you to think, gifted kids, is there ever a situation where they could fall into a learned helplessness pattern? And be ready to share, because it's no fun when I do all the talking.
Biggest fear for an adolescent is written all the way throughout this text. The biggest fear of an adolescent, Jesse,
not fitting in.
is not fitting in. You talked about acceptance. Now, to understand how this happens and how this looks and what this feels like, I'm going to have to do an activity. Not your own activity, and just this is not to tax you. These are easy things. This is just to kind of get you feeling what we're going to go over. So everybody, if you would take out a short piece of paper. I'm going to pass out these papers and just keep them face down. If you would, no one write on these, write on your own papers.
We're in a paper shortage, just that way.
Keep them face down. Yeah. Everybody have one? If you would, just do them one at a time, and I will tell you when to do them. Everybody turn it over, just do your own work. And this isn't meant to be hard. These are anagrams. Just do the first one only. Go ahead and solve it. An anagram is rearrange the letters to form a word. Just one. Just rearrange those letters to form a word. When you're done, I need to see your hand raised. You keep going, but wait. Keep your hands up, please. Just do number one. Don't go on. Don't go on. If this isn't meant to be difficult. Okay, put your hands down. Let's just go to number two. Don't even worry about number one. Go to number two, solve that one. Again, when you're done, I want to see your hands up. We're going to go ahead and do number three. For number three, rearrange the letters, and as soon as you do, go ahead and put your hand up. Here's what you need to know. You were both given two different lists. This side of the room was given these three words. And left side of the room, here you go. They were given bat. What would the word be? The second one, they were given lemon. Brian, the word? Melon. They were easy. The trick here was both of you were given the third word, which was the same. The third word was Cinerama, which was American. Your first two words on this side of my classroom were not solvable. They were impossible tasks. I'm sorry. I know, but here's what we did this for. I was able to induce something called learned helplessness in the left side of the room very easily within about 5 minutes. I want you to think about what happened to you, this left side of the room, when you saw the right side of the room raising their hands because they already had the task done. What happened to you during that time? Jory?
I was stupid.
You felt stupid? Okay. I felt rushed. Felt rushed? Joel? I was even more confused. You were even more confused because they all got it and you were still struggling. Chelsea? Frustrated. What happened by the time you got to the third word? Because I'm here to tell you, this side of the room is not significantly more intelligent than this side of the room. That was a random assignment. So what happened to show the differences? Why did you have more of a difficult time with the third word, which was the exact same word? Brian?
My confidence was shot.
What you experienced was a term called learned helplessness. How many have heard of the term before? Let me see your hands.
So she goes on to talk psychology. We're not here for that. But is that not crazy? We will self-defeat when we have been falling into a pattern of learned helplessness. Like, it's that easy. Now think about the kids who are shut down in your class. This has been repeated over and over in kindergarten, in first grade, in second grade, in third grade. Remember when I said, don't let them rush to be finished? Part of that is that's inducing learned helplessness for kids who are really needing to put in a little more effort or really struggling. So what do they stop doing? They start guessing. They start just scribbling. They start skipping boxes because they want to be like everyone else. And it's just hit that same cycle. Now I want you to switch it to gifted. At your table, are there scenarios where your kids that are gifted, though they're well equipped for the academic piece of your classroom, but are learned helplessness in other areas? Have that talk and be ready to share with the group. Go. Okay, we're gonna play a little zigzag. My good group at the front that's had great conversations. I need a speaker. Tell us what you talked about. And we're playing zigzag, so once you tell us what you talk about, you have to pick a group on the opposite side of the room.
We just talked a little bit about how the learned helplessness just looked a little bit at the numbers. So a student that may have been proficient or above proficient in third or fourth grade, even at gifted, sometimes by seventh and eighth is a basic limited kid simply because of they haven't done much or they are self-defeated, or so that student is very capable of being an above average student. As an eighth grader, you'll see them on your gifted list sometimes and say, how is that kid gifted? Well, that kid did score high enough in third or fourth grade, but the kid shows up 25% of the time. there's trauma filled in his home. So how we bring that kid back sometimes is gonna be much different than how we're doing gifted kid with mom and dad that love them way, way, way too much, which is like most of us in the room. But, so some of those are some of the things we find.
Okay, so they're talking about the gifted kid from early on, but is now in a learned helplessness cycle that could be trauma-based. Could it also be that they hit a struggle point and were fixed mindset and got stuck and then went in, I don't want to look dumb, so I won't. So it's not really I can't, it's just that effort means dumb, so I won't. Which is why some people are really good in one area, siloed learning, but not good in anything else because they don't want to try anything outside their bubble. You want an example of that? Pre-COVID, teachers and technology. You know how many years I made a living of teaching teachers to use technology? And some of them would be, it's a fad, I'm gonna wait it out. They don't all have Wi-Fi, the devices don't work. Not using it in my curriculum, we're using the same book. And then COVID hit and they were in trouble because you have to have tech. But that's like perfectly capable fixed mindset. Teachers were scared to use technology because they were scared that they may not be the expert on the technology in the room. They wouldn't look smart if they didn't know how to use it. Same thing with some kids can fall into a learned helplessness cycle. Trauma is definitely a reason, but it could be due to, I hit a struggle point, so I'd rather not look dumb, so I'll just stop. And so then I quit. And then once that cycle gets going, it's a downward spiral. Same thing with absences. Same thing with zeros, by the way. Your very first zero, anyone remember not having an assignment when it was due? The first time. The pit in your stomach, the stress, the world's gonna end, oh my Lord. Some of you were like, I've never had a zero, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, live in the real world. But once you get 5 or 6 of them, you realize the world is not going to end. And you're not gonna die. And then it becomes easier just to keep picking zeros over struggle. So that's why I tell teachers, stop letting zeros happen and make them show you what they know and build them up. Don't break them down because they'll get used to it. Absent kids, same thing. You don't show up one day, you don't know what the heck. You miss 2 days a week, now you feel disconnected. You don't feel disconnected, it's easy to miss 3 days next week, and before you know it, you're a high school dropout. So it's a cycle. Okay, zigzag.
All the way across.
Well, you gotta pick one,
Where
you just point.
Where Diane's sitting.
Where Diane's sitting, all right.
I apologize.
No, you were supposed to pick the speaker. Okay.
I said that, like, I feel like a lot of kids end up saying, I don't like this when it's challenging. I know, like I said, I am not an athletic person. So I tend to say I don't like sports. I don't want to participate when really I'm just bad at them and they're challenging. But it's easier to say and less embarrassing to say that I don't enjoy it than to say that I'm bad at it. And so with students with, I don't like to read, or I don't like science, or I don't like math. And I think it's easier to say they don't like it than to say it's a struggle.
Oh, very good point, very good point. You make me think of my youngest granddaughter. She's about to turn 7. Now, I asked her the other day, what do you like to do at recess? She said, I sometimes sit on the bench because I don't like to get sweaty. But here's the thing. She's almost 7 and has yet to learn to ride a bicycle without the training wheels. So, Nani, being the growth mindset challenger, bought her one of those electric hoverboard carts that she could ride, that you sit on. But I said, it stays in the box until you learn to ride that bike.
without training wheels. And she was like, I don't like to ride bikes. I said, that's because you can't. But once you learn, I mean, literally, the kids would go out to play and she's running behind the bikes because she couldn't ride a bike. But she just said, I don't like to ride a bike because she was scared to death of falling. And she literally, like, the child has some real fears. It barely rolls down the driveway and she's like, ah! Like, she is very fearful, but we had to get her over that hump. So I bought her the big thing, but then I got her sister one of those like chairs that hangs off the pod, like the big pod chairs. And I said, your big sister, this is her prize when you learn to ride a bike without training wheels. And she was like, oh. And then the big sister's like, come on, girl, we're getting this done. Long story short, this weekend, I was home sick with pink eye that I had gotten from an observation of a kindergarten classroom the week before. It's also the reason I haven't had contacts in today. I wasn't ready to go back. But they called me, they live in my neighborhood. They said, come stand outside. And here comes Natalie riding her little bike at like nothing per hour. But she's pedaling without training wheels down the street. And I was able to yoo-hoo her. And then her sister said, can we come and get the prizes when you're feeling better? That's the thing. She said forever, I don't like to ride bikes. I don't like to get sweaty. I've got to push her out of that comfort zone. If you want to help kids, the best experiences are outside your comfort zones. And some of you in this room right now are also people who like comfort zones. You're like, I identify with Natalie. I don't like to sweat either. I don't like to do hard things. Give yourself a challenge. Talk to your kids about doing something difficult. Talk them through your journey and they will learn skills. Okay, zigzag, pick somebody on this side of the room. Look, they're trying that whole thing of don't not make eye contact because they think that works. Carly's table. What did you guys talk about when it came to gifted and learned helplessness?
We were talking about the same kind of thing. I mean, the learned helplessness. A lot of times, we almost think that it versus laziness if they don't want to do it. We have a student that honestly does not want to do it. He's very capable. He has other issues besides that, and he will.
Other issues besides that, academically, trauma-wise?
Probably trauma.
Okay.
But I think he's so OCD about the grade being, like if you were to tell him, you know, well, this is a grade and you're not doing very well, then he's determined that he'll get it done. But he still is going to throw a fit about all of it until it's all done and drive you crazy in your class too. But he ends up doing it, and he's very capable of doing it. The learned behavior, I think, is prior to this, maybe so that he wasn't such a distraction, and he was alleviated from some of that responsibility. So now he chooses the hard part. You know, it's hard, I don't want to do it, it's dumb, it's stupid, whatever. Knowing he can do it, and if he'll just do it and get it done, then it's done. But
so I think what I'm hearing you say is for trauma or whatever other reasons, he fell into a cycle of saying it's hard and I won't, and other people were probably swooping and saving because he said it hard. Oh, hard is our like teacher alert. They need a scaffold, they need help, they need a partner, do it with him. And he has such a big demonstration of this. I'm assuming he's not a kid with his head down on the desk, not going to do it. He's like making a big deal out of it. So Lord, let's just get him through it. Instead of, for the sake of my classroom, instead of holding his feet to the fire to produce. And now you're holding his feet to the fire. So is it better than it was in August?
no.
None.
I need some, maybe some.
So here's what I want you to focus on, growth and tools. I want you to sit down and find a time to one-on-one, whoever has the best relationship with him, whoever's got the best relationship, whoever he sees as a mentor, I want you to sit down and talk about, look, you have these skills that make it where you are capable. But it's sometimes our gut reaction is to quit before we start. What can we do to make this easier on you to get started? So maybe he needs a couple of tricks I use. Pick any problem to start with. You don't have to start with number one. And I'm going to come back and check and give you feedback. Pick any question. And then I walk away. So some kids, I hit and run. I directed and then get the heck out of Dodge and let them do it. But I've also noticed some kids, as capable as they are, do you want a me, we, you? So I start the whole class, everybody's working. Now I'm going to sit down with him. I'm going to do any problem on this page for you, walk you through the steps. Then we're going to pick one that we do together, where I say, what's the first step? And I say the second step is, and we work it together. And then the third problem, you pick. Now I want you to do it, but I'm going to be here to watch you. And I'm going to tell you when you're going off course or you're right. Now that you have that confidence, now I can walk away. Me, we, use will get a kid who's hard to engaged. Or pick any problem. We'll generally get that done. See if those help with you. But if you can talk to him about what he's doing, because he's perfectly aware of what he's doing. And when he's frustrated, does he need to get up and get a drink and come back at it? Does he need to use the gel bottle for 2 minutes and then come back at it? Does he need to circle the 3 that frustrate him and do the easy ones first and then come back at it? So those are all techniques I would teach a kid who was having a hard time engaging in a struggle. Big thing, focus on growth and tools, Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna take a little test. You're gonna need the answer. So grab a sticky note or another piece of paper. This is different. This is a Likert scale. You can draw it out, but you're gonna need this because I'm not gonna have it on every slide. 1, you give a 1 if the statement I say is definitely false for you. 8, if it's definitely true. 2, mostly false. 7, mostly true. 3, somewhat false. 6, somewhat true. 4, slightly false. 5, slightly true. Does this make sense? Yes? It's a Likert scale. You're going to rate each statement I put up here for yourself to be true with the number. Now, here's where it gets confusing if you're not paying attention. I also need you to number the question. So you're basically, language arts perfectionist people, don't write the question. Just write number 1 and your Likert scale. It's an 8. It's a 7 for me. It's a 3. It's a 5. Number 2, it's an 8. It's a 9. Oh, it's not a 9 because there's not a 9. It's an 8. It's a 7. It's a 6. Got it? Thumbs up. I am still confused. Oh, look what I just taught you. Never thumbs up if you understand. I can't tell if all the thumbs are up. Thumbs up if you're still confused. That's how you get your kids to tell you if they need more time or they're still confused. Ready? And we're running against the clock here because I got an activity. I made the people get me an egg. I'm going to do it. So here we go. We got to get through this test. 1, I can think of many ways to get out of a jam. 2, so now put number 2. I energetically pursue my goals. 3, I feel tired most of the time. Hello, teachers. 4, there are lots of ways around any problem. 5, I'm easily downed in an argument. The best way I can describe this one to you is, you know the people who can argue their way out of a paper bag? That's the opposite of this. So I'm easily downed in an argument. Number 6, I can think of many ways to get the things in life that are important to me.
7, I worry about my health. 8, even when others get discouraged, I know I can find a way to solve the problem. 9, my past experiences have prepared me well for my future. 10, I've been pretty successful in my life. 11, I usually find myself worrying about something. 12, I meet the goals that I set for myself. All right, so now here's the key. I want you to circle number 2, question 2. I want you to circle question 9. I want you to circle question 10. And I want you to circle question 12. Then I want you to put a big circle that you can write a number in outside of somewhere on another piece of paper, on that sticky note, whatever. But you need a big circle that you can put a total. Total the number, the Likert numbers you gave yourself on those circles and put them in the circle. Does that make sense? This is where you might need your calculator or your fingers. Now I want you to put a square around question 1, a square around question 4, a square around 6, and a square around question 8. And then put a square out to the side and put those 4 number totals in the square. Then I want you to total the square and the circle together. And that's your total. But next to the circle total, I know it's getting complicated. Right, I'm looking at Susie and she's like, it's late in the day for all this thinking. Write agency next to the circle total. Agency. And pathway next to the square total. And the 2 numbers combined are your hope score. You just took the 12-question Hope Snyder Theory test. And we're going to talk about that and how it plays out to classrooms in just a second. So you have an agency scale. Your number, the highest it could be, is 32. You have a pathway score. Highest it could be is 32. And you have a hope score. Highest it could be is 64. See it? Anyone lost or confused? All right. So stand up if your agency was higher than your pathway. All right. Now sit down. Stand up if your pathway was higher than your agency. Okay. And sit down. And stand up if your numbers were the same. There are a few odd people. All right. So what is this? Well, I have to tell you, this is called the Hope Snyder Theory. And the reason I think it's important is because I think it's an opportunity for us to help kids learn agencies and pathways. So agency questions were, my past experiences prepared me for my future. I energetically pursue goals. I meet goals that I set for myself. I've been pretty successful in life. So this is believing, self-efficacy, that I can do hard things, right? Over here, pathways, this is that whole perseverance, resilience thing. I know when others get discouraged, I can find a way to solve the problem. I'm a problem solver. I can think of many things in life that are important to me, to get those things. I can think of many ways to get out of a problem. So these are our problem solvers. If pathways was your higher number, you probably consider yourself a problem solver. But both of these together build hope. How many of you have been told with trauma students, we need to promote hope, like hope that their life can be different? How many of you are familiar with ACEs?
adverse childhood experiences. Most depressing professional development that I ever have to do for people. It's like, here's 10 questions. What's your number? The higher your number, the higher of problems you'll have the rest of your life. By the way, your children experiencing this, same for them. Yay. Because you can't take them out of trauma. I mean, you can take a few home with you, but at a certain point, it just becomes like the crazy cat lady. You can't have them all, right? So trauma kids, my frustration with the professional development on ACEs training is, well, that doesn't help me. Like, congratulations, you're a kindergartner who's had a hard life. You're gonna have heart disease and suicide and possibly a teen pregnancy. Yay. There's not anything I'm gonna teach you to make that. But I'm supposed to give you hope that your life can be different. The Hope Snyder test gave me the tools. I went, aha. So I can't solve your trauma, but I can help build agency and pathway, and that gives people hope that they can deal with anything life puts in front of them. If I can help kids see how setting goals and pursuing goals, and that they can do that with efficacy, and how they can solve problems when they're struggling, frustrated, or hit an obstacle, then I've created students who can be successful in life way outside my classroom. I can do that. I can't fix your mama and daddy. I can't solve the trauma you've had in your elementary school before you got here, but I can do this for all my kids, which gives them hope. This was an amazing piece of research to me because it made me feel like I had control. By the way, side note, those of you that have a high ACEs number yourself, and your hope test you just took was over 50. Stand up if you're willing. Yeah, high ACEs number. So here's the correlation I have found. By the way, let me just claim it. I'm a 9 on the ACEs scale. A 9. You can sit down. But what I realized is the higher my trauma, my ACEs, the higher my hope numbers had to be standing here, to be sitting where you're sitting, to have gotten a degree and teaching children. You had to have agency. You had to have pathways, or you would not have made it out of the cycle that was handed to you. Now, those of you that come from good home lives, where your trauma number was low, your ACEs number is low, you're feeling all sad because you're a gifted person and you like to top out the score, but your score was kind of in the middle. Not really a big deal, nothing to shout home about. Guess what? You didn't need all the tools I needed to be able to dig yourself out. So you didn't have to work these as hard as I do to be able to fight the cycle that was handed to me. Kind of amazing, isn't it? Weird correlation. So, I'm gonna drop my little thing. The last thing I wanna do, well, let's do this. Where am I at on time? Literally 1 minute while I set up my activity, because I'm gonna do one quick demonstration, and I've never done it for a big room. Like, I only had 1A, so I'm gonna have to do it like demo style. I want you to talk for 1 minute. How does this agency and pathway thing apply to your classroom? Go. So the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to building social and emotional skills with kids is not only the hope, but it's teaching self-talk. How many of you know that your students sometimes get in their own way with their own self-talk? So the best demonstration I have for this is, one, you must model positive self-talk in front of kids. You must model positive coaching to help them build the positive talk. When your head's saying this, say this. help your kids break apart what their head is telling them from their own identity. Because so many times they think the voice in their head is the be-all, end-all truth. No, your brain wants you to not get sweaty, Natalie. Your brain is trying to not have you skin your knee, but have you ever skinned your knee and died? No, because you're still alive. You'll live. It's okay. So don't let your brain trick you into not doing something that every kid does and has fun with. So you have to kind of help them separate their brain talk from them, because they hear it and they think, no, this is me. No, it's your brain playing a game. Get in front of your brain and give it positive self-talk. So a demonstration that will help your kids. Eric, will you help me? Sure. You're the mic person. Okay, so I have, oh look, can we see this? Salt, and I have pepper. Salt, oh, by the way, do you think this raw egg can stand upright? What do you think? Science teachers are like, yep. Most of us are like, what? So the reality is, anytime you stand an egg upright, it falls over. But here's the thing. With negative self-talk, like the pepper, you'll never be able to do it. It's too hard. This is for big kids, Natalie. When you fall, it's too much. It falls every time. Oh, you're right. It is too hard. I can't. It's for bigger kids. It goes too fast. At one point while she was learning, her mother said, that stupid bike is too wobbly. Her mom had to say, no, Natalie, that's your balance that's wobbly. It needs more practice. The bike itself is fine. She was ready to blame the bike. But with just a tiny bit. So did you see how much negative self-talk I could put down there and still the egg would not stand? Okay, here's the challenge. When I fail in front of a bunch of people, it's always sad. But just with a tiny bit of positive words, you can, Natalie. You just have to have what? Believe, hope. When one strategy doesn't work, try another. When you lean into it and you fall, get up and lean opposite. You try it and you try it and you try it, and then you fail. Watch this. You only need a tiny, tiny bit of positive self-talk to do the impossible, or what you believe to be the impossible. So helping kids realize that self-talk is important as practice, as positive, as doing it correctly, as having the knowledge, as having the ability, will help kids tackle hard things. I hope you learned a few strategies today. I went over the time I said I was going to. She's going to close it out for me. You do need your tools of challenge. And I appreciate you guys. You've been an awesome, awesome group. Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you, Dedra.